Chapter 1473. The three people in the net heard Yang Chen's words, but they could no longer make any resistance. After Yang Chen finished speaking, he directly punched each of them. The three of them fainted happily under these three seemingly light punches, and they didn't have to worry about anything else. The 7 black-robed men outside had no idea what was happening inside the demon's sealing array. They were still waiting in place, waiting for the appointed time to activate the demon's sealing array again. They would open a gap in the demon's sealing array and receive the people inside. Although they could control the demon's sealing array as long as they captured Yang Chen, there was no absolute in this world. What there was trouble? On this point, the black-clothed men had considered it thoroughly. This was just a backup plan, just in case. The plan was a plan, but the black-clothed men didn't think that there would be any accidents. 3 Supreme Masters were more than enough to deal with Yang Chen. Now, they should consider more about how to deal with it later, how to cover up the traces, and how to push the blame to the remaining Taishamen. Everyone is in a good mood. A voice suddenly sounded in everyone's ears, causing the 7 black-clothed men to jump up as if they were facing a formidable enemy. This was a strange voice. They had never heard it before, and it was definitely someone they didn't know. The terrible thing was that they didn't notice when this person came close to them. This was definitely a fatal negligence, or rather, a fatal disaster. The 7 people's spiritual awareness had been monitoring the surrounding situation. Even if they felt that things were foolproof, they were still in someone else's territory after all. It was the truth to be careful. However, under such circumstances, it was no longer an accident that someone had managed to sneak up on him without making a sound. Without thinking about it, the 7 life source magic weapons smashed in the direction of the voice. No matter who it was, whether he used some tricks to get close to them, they would kill him first. With a series of bangs, a series of bone-chilling collisions sounded, and the 7 black-clothed Supreme Masters only felt that their sea of consciousness was shaken. Their life source magic weapon was blocked by someone, and even this block caused a certain amount of damage to the life source magic weapon, causing the owner's spiritual awareness to tremble. What kind of opponent was so terrifying? Could it be a Grand Supreme Master from another sect? The men in black knew about the agreement between Chunyang Palace and the top 10 sect. Was there a hidden Grand Master guarding at all times? A green-clothed figure appeared in front of everyone. The figure looked very young, but he had an indescribable temperament that made it difficult for people to grasp him. Looking at the young man's cultivation base, it was just the late Deshang stage, which was not surprising at all. The flying sword did not have any Dharma treasures in hand. It slowly walked towards the 7 of them, but it gave them an indescribable pressure. It was such a young man in the late Deshang stage who blocked their attack and hid from their spiritual awareness surveillance. Everyone couldn't believe their eyes. This person was very strange. Among the few masters of the Deshang stage in Chunyang Palace, there was no one with this appearance. They had heard of no one with this unique temperament. Where did this master come from? There were a lot of questions, but unfortunately, the situation in front of them had made them unable to care too much. They must solve this young man as soon as possible. Otherwise, the movement caused would attract a large number of Chunyang Palace disciples around. The incident happened suddenly, and the 7 people rushed up regardless of the shock. At this time, no one would talk about fighting alone or anything like that. A quick fight was the king's way. It was a pity that outside the Demon Seal formation, they could only exert the strength of the peak Deshang stage. Otherwise, it would be easy to solve a little guy in the late Deshang stage. The figure rushed up quickly, but it also retreated quickly. The black figure rushed forward like a cannonball. The young man on the opposite side did not take out a Dharma treasure to fight against it at all, and directly punched out quickly. The shadows of the fists flew everywhere. The 7 people, whether they used flying swords or fists, all had a solid collision with the young man. The speed of the young man's fists was almost comparable to the fastest flying sword. Each person had a punch, and no one fell. Boom! The 7 black figures quickly retreated. Because the speed of flying back was so fast, they pulled out 7 black illusory lines in the air. Bang! The figure flew back and crashed heavily into the invisible barrier of the demon's ceiling formation, emitting a deafening sound like the roar of thunder. If that was the case, it would be okay. The terrible thing was that the disaster of the black-clad people did not end here. The younger generation hit the barrier of the demon seal formation heavily, and their internal organs were shaken. The force from the front and back made them spit out a mouthful of blood. That was not all. The power of the punch was so terrible that the barrier of the demon seal formation behind them shook violently, driving the entire demon seal formation as if to lift the entire demon seal formation that covered 1,000 miles. The backs of the 7 black-clad people were suddenly empty, and their figures quickly retreated. It was the barrier of the demon seal formation behind them that could not support the terrible power. 7 human-shaped holes appeared directly on the barrier, and the 7 black-clad people leaked into the demon seal formation. What kind of power was this? A young man in the late Dashang stage, with a few punches, smashed the 7 masters of the 2 high level from the outside of the demon seal formation and smashed them into the formation. The indestructible demon seal formation in the eyes of the black-clad elders was like a clay sculpture in the hands of the young man. The 7 black-clad men lying on the ground, unable to move, looked in horror at the barrier of the demon seal formation, which had been restored to its original state. Then at the front of the big bag, an arm and a leg were forcibly squeezed in, and then the whole body of the young man. It was not until the young man's body was completely in that the barrier of the demon seal formation was restored to its original state. This young man, with a unique temperament, with such a normal way of walking, forcibly broke through the legendary demon seal formation that even the masters of the 4th grade of the Earth Immortal could not break, and just walked in. The expressions on the faces of the black-clad elders could no longer be described as shock, but panic and despair. Where did the Chunyang Palace find such a terrifying helper? Was this the hidden power of the Chunyang Palace? But he was clearly only at the late Mahayana realm. How is this possible? Suddenly, there was a sound of high-speed flying in the air. Bang! Entangled black net was thrown heavily on the ground. The 7 black-clad elders, who could not move, were shocked again. The black net, the familiar aura inside, was clearly the 3 companions who had just entered. "Big brother, you are here?" Yang Chen's voice was full of surprise, and he shouted at the devil in the eyes of the black-clad man. Chapter 1474. The person who came was Yang Chen's sworn brother, the mysterious Master Li Cheng. Yang Chen also heard the movement here, so he used a shuttle to rush over and saw the terrifying scene of Li Cheng entering the demonic seal formation from a distance. Even if Yang Chen wanted to break the demonic seal formation, he needed to use the Immortal beheading blade, combined with the ability to cut off space from the core of the demon continent, and use the power of Shao Tian Yazi to break the barrier of the demonic seal formation. On the other hand, Li Cheng didn't use anything and just relied on brute force to force his way in. Just the terrifying strength he displayed was enough to make anyone in this world tremble in fear. Fortunately, Yang Chen was not among the people who were frightened. As Li Cheng's sworn brother, this was one reason, and the other reason was that he had long realized that in the mortal world, no matter what Li Cheng did, it was not shocking. Li Cheng did not let Yang Chen down. At least this time, his performance made Yang Chen have a more and more understanding of his sworn brother. For Li Cheng to be able to accurately find the whereabouts of Yang Chen of the pure Yang Side Palace, Yang Chen was not surprised at all. As for these unlucky black-clothed masters, it could only be said that they were indeed unlucky enough to step on dog shit. Otherwise, how could they meet at this time? Even Yang Chen would be ashamed of his abnormal big brother. "Who are they?" Li Cheng smiled at Yang Chen, then gestured with his chin to the 7 black-clothed masters lying on the ground, and asked very casually. The 7 black-clothed masters have completely lost the ability to fight back. Let alone fight back, they could not even stand up, relying on their own bodies to be smashed into the barrier of the demonic seal formation to bear the damage. If it was an ordinary master of the Dashang stage, he didn't know how many times he would have died. If these guys weren't the masters of the highest level, maybe they would have already become 7 pools of meat. I don't know. Yang Chan looked down a few times and shook his head directly. But looking at their appearance, they looked like some Taishaman's great elders. Remnants of the Taishaman? Li Chung asked with a meaningful smile. The annihilation of the Taishaman was such a big event that it was impossible to hide it from Li Chung. Calling them the remaining Taishaman was not out of place. In terms of appearance, it should be, Yang Chen replied with the same smile. At the same time, Yang Chen bent down to grab the tangled black net and shook it a few times. 3 unconscious fellows were shaken out of the 5 incomplete black nets by Yang Chen and fell to the ground. This should be Elder Feng, who has the highest cultivation among the Taishaman and is the most senior. Yang Chen pointed to the leading man in black and said, "It is said that his cultivation has reached the 10th stage of the human immortal realm. He is a super expert." Yang Chen's words made the other 7 fellows lying on the ground feel slightly relieved. As long as they were treated as Taishaman, at least their own sect wouldn't be implicated. However, they were a little puzzled. Logically speaking, Yang Chen shouldn't have had the chance to meet the Taishaman's great elders. Why was he so familiar with the Taishaman's great elders? The leading man in black was playing the role of Elder Feng of the Taishaman. Elder Feng had been in seclusion for so long that even the people from other super sect didn't know if Elder Feng was still in the mortal world or if he had ascended. No one knew what Elder Feng's cultivation level was. Yang Chen called out Elder Feng's cultivation base, which was another point that made the black-robed people puzzled. Li Chung heard a different taste from Yang Chen's mouth and asked meaningfully, "Could it be that they are not? Big brother, do you think he has the cultivation of the 10th stage of the human immortal realm?" Yang Chen shook his head and smiled bitterly. These words were not so much for Li Chung to ask Yang Chen. It was better to directly tell the 7 black-clothed elders who were awake that they had been seen through. At this moment, the 7 black-robed grand elders even had the heart to die. As seniors, they had been captured by 2 juniors with their bare hands. Furthermore, they had even been exposed for impersonating someone else. If news of this were spread, how would they still have the face to see anyone? They would just have to find a block of tofu and kill themselves. If they could move, their first reaction would probably be suicide. Unfortunately, now they don't even have the ability to move, let alone die. They could only watch Yang Chen and Li Chung say one sentence at a time, and there was nothing they could do. How should we deal with them? Li Chung looked at the 10 experts in black lying on the ground and asked, "Since they look like the remnants of the Taishaman, I will treat them as the remnants of the Taishaman." Yang Chen casually looked down at the 10 great elders in black. With a wave of his hand, the figures of the 10 people disappeared without a trace in an instant. The remnants of the Taishaman. Everyone has the right to punish them. From now on, there will be no more of these 10 people in this world. However, your sister-in-law's mountain river geographical map lacks a few masters who can control the situation. Just think of it as a gift from Big Brother to a Ling. The lives of the 10 people were meaningless for Yang Chen and Li Chung at this moment. Since they dressed up as the remnants of the Taishaman and came to the pure Yang Palace to find trouble, then don't blame Yang Chen for dealing with them in the same way as the remnants of the Taishaman. No matter which sect it is, losing 10 great elders at once must be distressed to death. This was their own fault. It was not Yang Chen's ruthlessness. Since they wanted to attack the Chunyang Palace and Yang Chen could not wait to die. Before they planned to make a move, they should have thought about the consequences of failure. Now Yang Chen just downplayed them as the remnants of the Taishaman and did not go deep into it. It was already a great opportunity for them. The sect could only bite their teeth and swallow their blood and eat this silent loss. Without Yang Chen's deep investigation, Yang Chen could also see the origins of these guys, at least the origin of one of them, Yang Chen knew. In his previous life, he was also a famous master. Unfortunately, in this life, he could only be reduced to an ordinary pawn in Gong Sunling's mountain river geographical map, and it was impossible to have the glory of his previous life. That guy was a rogue cultivator, belonging to one of the 2 rogue cultivators in the top 10 sect. This was not good for the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. There was no cohesion and centripetal force of a fixed sect. Many masters were also self-righteous. The previous Chu Yulong of the Four Seas Alliance jumped out and was taught a lesson. This time, it was another sect. The rogue cultivator was a rogue cultivator. Their organizational discipline was poor. Even if they went to the spiritual world, they would not be able to achieve much. The reason why he drew the two rogue cultivator alliances was that Chunyang Palace could get the support of the vast majority of the super forces. If they dared to provoke him, Yang Chun had plenty of ways to deal with them. Big brother, why do you have time to come here? After dealing with the 10 black-clothed elders, Yang Chun made a gesture to Li Cheng, and at the same time asked, "Let's go to my little brother's Chunyang Palace first, and then we'll talk about other things." Chapter 1475. Li Cheng didn't say much. He followed Yang Chun and quickly came to the back hall of the Chunyang Palace. The roof of the room where Yang Chun was before had been completely lifted and could not be received. Yang Chun replaced it with another exquisite small courtyard. Yang Chun had already ordered a Yuanying stage elder in the sect to deal with a mess on the other side of the hall, so it would not affect Yang Chun and Li Cheng. In that exquisite small courtyard, Yang Chun set up a table of exquisite side dishes and made a few jars of wine brewed by Sun Qingxue mixed with Jade Dragon brewing yeast. The two brothers chatted while drinking. "You have been diligent these years." After Li Cheng and Yang Chun drank a big glass, he praised, "You have brought Chunyang Palace to prosperity, but your own cultivation is a little behind. With your qualifications, it is impossible for you to only be in this realm. Is there anything holding you back?" After that, without waiting for Yang Chun to answer, he picked up the wine glass that Yang Chun had just filled, touched his glass with Yang Chun's, drank it up, and then complained, "You have so many troubles, and there are so many things to do, but you still have the leisure to plot against Taishaman. You are really in the mood." Yang Chun's plot against Taishaman, except for the core high level of Chunyang Palace, Gong Sunling, no one else knew, but Li Cheng pointed out the fact that Yang Chun was plotting against Taishaman. If anyone else said this, Yang Chun would definitely be on guard, but facing Li Cheng, he did not do so. First, there was no need for this. Second, even if he became hostile, he would not necessarily be able to gain the upper hand. Yang Chun would never do an overconfident move, like an ant trying to shake a tree. The earth-shattering movement of the Heaven and Earth Infinite Spirit Suppression Formation, Yang Chun did not believe that Li Cheng could not feel it. However, even so, Yang Chun was very curious. How did Li Cheng know that he had schemed against the Taishaman? Apart from those old fellows up there, who else in the mortal world can create this kind of formation? Li Cheng stewed another mouthful of wine before cursing with some disappointment. "Other than you, who else could it be? The Taishaman have been awe-inspiring for so many years, but you've quietly destroyed it. What a waste. Big brother, are you related to the Taishaman?" Yang Chun asked softly when he heard Li Cheng's words. If Li Cheng really had a relationship with the Taishaman, then he would have to be careful when he talked about the Taishaman, lest everyone would lose face. Although the two of them wouldn't fall out with each other just because of a Taishaman whose entire clan had been annihilated, it would still be a little awkward if they were to bring it up. "Relationship my ass, I don't care if they die." Li Cheng waved his hand casually as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. It was as if the annihilation of the Taishaman, the leader of the Taoist sects, was just a topic for him to talk about after drinking. Yang Chun suddenly felt relieved and let out a long sigh. Li Cheng had nothing to do with the Taishaman. This attitude also showed that he didn't care whether the Taishaman were dead or alive. That was good. At Yang Chen's realm, he had even killed a 10th grade human immortal supreme elder. There was almost no one in the world who could threaten Yang Chun. Li Cheng was the only mysterious expert that Yang Chun was not willing to be an enemy. Until now, Yang Chun couldn't see Li Cheng's true strength. Just these that he had shown were enough to make Yang Chun afraid. "Tell me, what is holding you back?" Li Cheng asked the same question again. It seemed that Yang Chun had to give an answer. "Big brother, this is the case." Yang Chun felt a little unguarded against Li Cheng. This was purely his own intuition. There was no reason, he just felt that it was better to be straightforward with Li Cheng. From his discovery of the cultivation method that could refine the space nodes to the discovery of the secrets of the core of the demon continent, And then his process of refining the space nodes was also explained one by one, without the slightest concealment. According to what you said, the core of the demon continent has been refined, and the demonic energy is no longer overflowing. You should be successful. Why can't you concentrate on your cultivation? It had to be said that Li Cheng's eyes were very sharp. At a glance, he could see that Yang Chen was still not putting 100% of his energy on cultivation, and he asked directly with a frown. I think Big Brother also knows where this little brother came from. Yang Chen smiled a little embarrassedly, and then said, this little brother found that the entrance is also a space node, and it can also be refined, so there is no need to say anything else. Li Cheng had fully understood what Yang Chen was doing. Listening to Yang Chen's words, Li Cheng stretched out his hand, pointed at Yang Chen, opened his mouth to say something, but found that he couldn't say anything. In the end, he could only point his finger fiercely at Yang Chen, reached out and touched the glass filled with Yang Chen's smiling face, and drank it in one gulp. What should I say to you? After Li Cheng drank 3 glasses in a row, he knew what to say, and complained to Yang Chen, the little loach wants to make big waves. The little snake wants to swallow the elephant. Do you know how the snake swallows the elephant? It's not that it's full, it's greedy. Do you really think that entrance can be refined in a few hundred years? Do you know who refined it? Even if Yang Chen took all the reserve resources of Taishaman, no one said that he was greedy. This was the first time that someone pointed at Yang Chen's nose and said that he was greedy. However, Yang Chen was not angry. Li Cheng scolded him like this. It was definitely for his own good. In the past, Yang Chen really thought that as long as it took a few hundred years, he could always refine the entrance. Now listening to Li Cheng's words, it was not the case at all. Is it that the 3 pure Tao ancestor Taishang Lao Jun who refined it? Yang Chen replied cautiously, and there was a little more anxiety in his heart. Did he really think things were too simple? You know it too. Li Cheng almost scolded, such a thing that connects the 3 realms and cuts off yin and yang. Do you really think that you, a little Deshang State Jr., can refine it? How many great principal golden immortals look at this thing and drool for a lifetime and dare not touch it? But you actually took the initiative to get it. Big brother, don't be angry. Yang Chen smiled and filled Li Cheng's cup. Li Cheng's face was cold, and he stewed a cup without saying a word. Yang Chen continued to accompany him with a smile and poured another cup for himself. Then he said, you said that this younger brother knows. This younger brother is not arrogant to that point. Li Cheng didn't answer at all and directly gave him a dissatisfied look. If Yang Chen couldn't give him a satisfactory explanation, Li Cheng would never speak. Big brother, calm down. Yang Chen said with a smile, this younger brother is not going to refine that thing. I just want to refine the entrance. Besides, if I can't refine it in a few hundred years, then I will refine it in a few thousand years. This younger brother is not in a hurry. Chapter 1476. You think it's too simple. Li Cheng rolled his eyes and gave Yang Chen a supercilious look. Thousands of years. Do you really plan to stay in the mortal world for thousands of years and become an antique of the 10th grade of human immortal? Of course, Yang Chen didn't want to become like Elder Feng of the Taishaman. Chunyang Palace was not the Taishaman, who could develop in the spiritual world without Yang Chen ascending to the spiritual world. Shaking his head like a rattle, Yang Chen didn't need to speak, just shook his head to express his attitude. You don't want to? Do you think it's up to you? Li Cheng once again hit Yang Chen's confidence, and his words were unprecedentedly serious. If you can refine it in thousands of years, it's still a good thing. I'm afraid that you can't refine it until your lifespan is exhausted. What will you do then? Can I ascend and refine it in the spiritual world? Yang Chen really didn't know this time. Yang Chen didn't have a chance to contact such a high-level thing as the immortal chopping stage in his previous life. He only knew some general knowledge. He didn't know the real core things at all, so he immediately asked Li Cheng for advice. Yang Chen never thought that there was anything embarrassing about asking others for advice. He didn't have that kind of arrogant bad habit after being reborn, especially when the person asking for advice was Li Cheng. There was no psychological burden, and he waited for his sworn brother to solve his doubts with peace of mind. If you can't refine it completely during the tribulation and ascend, you will be directly dragged down by the entrance. The only result of a struggle between the two sides is that you'll be destroyed. Li Cheng shook his head slowly and gave Yang Chun such an answer that he never thought of. According to Li Cheng, if Yang Chun couldn't refine the entrance of the immortal chopping stage in the mortal world, he could only stay in the mortal world and slowly wait for his lifespan to run out. Yang Chun never doubted that Li Cheng would deceive him on this point. It didn't benefit him at all. It was meaningless. There's a way to exhaust one's lifespan. I've found a pill formula that can extend one's lifespan. If I concoct a batch, it should be able to increase one's lifespan. Yang Chen also became serious and slowly said, "But is there no other way but to stay in the mortal world?" This time, Li Cheng did not answer directly. Instead, he showed a rare look of surprise. He asked in disbelief, "You found a pill formula that can extend lifespan? How could this be? Could a fifth-grade alchemist in the human world refine elixirs that could extend one's life? That is the effect of the 9 transformations golden pill. It can't be said that I found it. I was just inspired and found the feasibility." Hearing Li Cheng's words, Yang Chun didn't belittle himself and just said lightly, "This is not Yang Chun lying. The pill formula of longevity pill found in the secret pavilion of Chunyang Palace is not complete. Even most of it is just a concept. The only constructive breakthrough is to use pure Yang True Fire and pure Yin True Fire to refine pills at the same time. From the materials to the techniques, Yang Chun referred to the elderly Lord Pill scripture and combined it with his own cultivation of old demon Yi's demonic art that could absorb the essence of other people's life as a reference, which gave a prototype. The essence of the pill formula was mainly in 2 parts. The first was the combination of pure Yin True Fire and pure Yang True Fire. The second was the method of absorbing the essence of life. Yang Chen's main material was the human immortal level devilish bead. It was precisely because the devilish bead was originally the condensed life essence of the demonized monster that it could be absorbed. However, Yang Chun was only a 5th-grade alchemist master after all. Even with the help of the profound spirit furnace, he could barely refine the lowest level 6th-grade medicinal pill, but the limit was that. Compared with the 9 transformations golden pill, the effect was not known where it was worse. Not to mention anything else, it could be seen from the increased lifespan. A devilish bead above the 5th grade of human immortal contains such a terrifying life essence, but it can only extend the lifespan of a master of the mortal world by 100 years, and the conversion efficiency is poor. But then again, from another point of view, Yang Chun was able to use the level of the 5th-grade alchemist master to refine the medicinal pill to increase lifespan with the medicinal pills and fire seeds of the human world. Even those 8th-grade and 9th-grade alchemist masters of the immortal world may not be able to do it. At this point, Yang Chun is definitely worthy of pride. Tell me about the principle of your longevity pill. I'll listen to it. Li Cheng was obviously interested, no longer talking about refining the entrance to the immortal executioner stage, and began to ask Yang Chun about the longevity pill. Yang Chun didn't hide it, and told Li Cheng the final version of the pill recipe that he had now summarized without missing a word, and the refining method was not left behind. Nothing else was said. Li Cheng was more familiar with the fire seed than Yang Chun, and Li Cheng also came into contact with the devilish bead earlier. Li Cheng's alchemy experience was definitely not bad, and there was no need for Yang Chun to explain too much. Li Cheng fell into contemplation, closed his eyes, and began to slowly ponder whether the medicinal pill refined according to Yang Chen's pill recipe had the effect of prolonging life. Li Cheng was contemplating, and Yang Chun did not disturb him. He thought silently by himself about how to solve the deadlock of refining the entrance to the immortal executioner stage. Yang Chun was indeed a little greedy and careless. He thought that since he could refine the core of the demon continent, he could also refine the entrance to the immortal executioner stage. Now, with Li Cheng's reminder, looking back, he found that it was not the case. The core of the demon continent, at best, was nothing more than a point, and the largest was no more than the size of Yang Chen's pinky nail. It took Yang Chun hundreds of years of time, plus the help of the heavenly tribulation during the Yin Fire Tribulation, to complete it. the entrance to the Immortal executioner stage, but Yang Chun, a big living person, swaggered in, and it seemed very spacious. In terms of size, it was hundreds of millions of times larger than the demon continent. Not to mention anything else, just this scale, according to the proportion, the time for Yang Chun to refine would also increase by hundreds of millions of times, and this was not counting the difficulty increased at the same time after the expansion of the space. If Yang Chun had not been so greedy at that time, it would have been better, but now it was too late to say anything. The entrance to the Immortal executioner stage had been through the first layer of sacrificial refining, and it was tightly tied to Yang Chun. Yang Chun had not found a way to disconnect this connection. The cultivation method of refining space word by word in his mind, but Yang Chun was still disappointed after all. There was no quick way to complete this cultivation method, and there was no means to give up halfway through the refining. In other words, Yang Chun must completely refine the entrance to the Immortal executioner stage in order to get rid of the misfortune of being annihilated when he ascended. Your method is a bit interesting. While Yang Chun was thinking about it, Li Cheng was not idle on the other side. Soon it seemed that he had figured out a lot of things. He opened his eyes and said to Yang Chun, "Pure Yang True fire plus pure Yin True fire. There's such a way to transfer the essence of life. Wonderful." Chapter 1477. To be able to let a person like Li Cheng praise the ingenious workmanship, even if he was as calm as Yang Chun, he also felt very proud. In the same way, this praise also meant that Yang Chen's pill recipe, at least Li Cheng also agreed that it could achieve the purpose of prolonging life. At least in theory, there was a full grasp, and only the actual refining was left. Li Cheng looked at Yang Chun, and there were some waves in his heart. Yang Chen's excellence in alchemy was really beyond his expectations. It could be said that if it wasn't for the limitations of his cultivation base, Yang Chen's realm of alchemy would be far higher than it is now. Even if there is a longevity pill, are you willing to stay in the mortal world for thousands of years? The topic turned back to the time of refining the entrance, and Li Cheng asked Yang Chun again. "I'm not willing." Yang Chun said one thing and two things. Although he was a little discouraged, he still said his feelings. "It's my fault. I didn't expect it to be so serious. Big brother, you're right. I'm still too greedy." From the day of his rebirth to the present, Yang Chun has been smooth sailing, and he has not tasted the taste of failure. This time, he finally tasted the bitter fruit. "It seems that I have to stay for a while and see if I can think of any way." Li Chun was also helpless and could only say resentfully. Yang Chun and he were sworn brothers, and he couldn't just leave Yang Chun alone. "Big brother, what were you going to do when you came here this time?" Until now, Yang Chun remembered that Li Cheng had never said what he was going to do this time. When the two met, Yang Chun asked a question, but Li Cheng never answered it. "I was going to ask you for a magic weapon." Li Cheng finally replied this time. "I have a use for the small cup that you got from the old dragon that can condense the 10th water true essence." Li Cheng was talking about the sea-pouring jasper cup that Yang Chun obtained from the Dragon Palace treasure house. In addition to being able to condense 10th water true essence, the sea-pouring jasper cup can also shield spiritual awareness. Yang Chun can come and go freely in the core of the demon continent, relying on the effect of the sea-pouring jasper cup. Asking someone else for a magic treasure, especially a magic treasure of this level, Li Cheng didn't have the slightest bit of embarrassment on his face. He also didn't have the slightest fear that Yang Chun wouldn't agree. It was very natural, as if it was something that originally belonged to him, and he was taking it back from Yang Chun. The sea-pouring jasper cup was a magic weapon of the Dragon Clan. It could be hidden by the old Dragon King in the treasure house. It was by no means a simple thing. At least so far, Yang Chun has not figured out why it is called the sea-pouring jasper cup. The word sea-pouring is not a simple word, but represents a very terrible power. Listening to Li Cheng, Yang Chun didn't say anything. He directly took out the sea-pouring jasper cup from the merit ring, put on the wine table, and then pushed it in front of Li Cheng. Not to mention that Li Cheng just wanted a sea-pouring jasper cup. Even if he wanted the great yin-yang 5 elements flying sword, Yang Chun would not frown. There is such a magical fate in the relationship between people. This was the case for Yang Chun and Li Cheng. They met by chance at the beginning and talked very happily, but after knowing each other, they never cared about any worldly things. Not to mention anything else. The gifts that Li Cheng gave to Yang Chen's wives and concubines, in terms of value alone, were no less than the sea-pouring jasper cup, but Li Cheng never showed any reluctance. I have a use for this thing, so I won't be polite with you. Li Cheng was also refreshing. He directly reached out and picked up the sea-pouring jasper cup and was about to put it back into the Chinkoan bag. Suddenly, Li Cheng's movements stopped. Holding the sea-pouring jasper cup in his hand, he put it in front of his eyes in disbelief and observed it carefully. After a while, he sighed in surprise. How is it possible? How much time did you spend on sacrificial refining? There are 2 formations in Taishaman, and some of my magic weapons have been soaked in half of the spiritual power in the world for more than 40 days. Yang Chun described the reason for the change in the sea-pouring jasper cup in the most concise and comprehensive words. Good. This saves me at least 100 years of sacrificial refining. Li Cheng was happy in his heart and praised him. He put away the sea-pouring jasper cup and said to Yang Chun, I will stay here first. Let me think about it slowly and see what I can do. Of course, Yang Chun would not refuse and directly arranged for Li Cheng to stay in the Dragon Palace. Li Cheng even knew that the sea-pouring jasper cup came from the Dragon Clan, and of course he would not be surprised that Yang Chun still had the Dragon Palace in his hands. However, the exquisite architecture and rich spiritual power of the Dragon Palace made Li Cheng slightly nod his head. After settling Li Cheng, Yang Chun immediately ordered the disciples of the sect to go to the core demon seal formation of the Chunyang Palace and called Gong Sunling back. There were 10 human immortal level masters in his hands, and he had to put them into the mountain river geographical map to be completely relieved. Gong Sunling came back very quickly, and Gao Yu was also with her. Yang Chun would never send someone to deliver this kind of news when there was no major event. As soon as they received the news, the 2 women could no longer sit still and rushed back to the Chunyang Palace as fast as possible. What happened? Along the way, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were worried. When they saw that there was no abnormality in the Chunyang Palace and everything was in order, they were a little relieved. But when she saw Yang Chun, Gao Yu still asked anxiously, It's no big deal. Yang Chun smiled and took Gao Yu and Gong Sunling in his arms. Big brother is here, and he caught a few people. It's a pity to kill them, so let a Ling come back. The 2 women breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay. Yang Chun did not tell the 2 women about Li Cheng's worries. At this time, everything has not been finalized, and there is no need to let the 2 women worry. However, when they saw the 10 black-clothed masters, the 2 women still couldn't help but be surprised. It's amazing. Yang Chun looked at the surprised faces of the 2 women and laughed. These people can't disguise themselves, but they have to disguise themselves as the Taishaman's supreme elders. It must be known that the 2 women know most of the people inside, and they're very sure that they have become dead people. In front of them, their disguise has no meaning at all. Gong Sunling was not polite to the gifts of Yang Chun and Li Cheng. With a wave of her delicate hand, the 10 seriously injured guys were received into the mountain river geographical map. Even after they went in, each of them had 2 5th-grade Lingji mushroom jade pills to heal. Masters, of course, are healthy and normal masters who can be useful for the mountain river geographical map. Since they have rushed back, the 2 women were not in a hurry to go back. On the side of the core demon sealing formation, Elder Gao would control each time to send 10 outermost human immortal level demonic beasts to their respective demon sealing formation. As for how each sect deals with it, it was the business of each sect. On the side of Chunyang Palace, there was no plan to subdue them at all. Yang Chun had already said that these beasts had no thoughts, and it was meaningless to subdue them. They were all used for fighting, honing their combat skills, and at the same time harvesting demonic beads. Chapter 1478. After so many years of absorption of demonic chi, it has affected the entire demon continent. Now at least half of the area has been purified, and there was no demonic chi at all. The cultivation base of these beasts on the periphery was not very high, only in the first or second grade of the human immortal realm, which was the best target for the masters of the Deshang stage to hone their skills. Even if they couldn't kill them independently, but under the situation of a master, they could persist as long as they could. After such an experience, everyone who participated in the experience benefited a lot, and their combat experience improved by leaps and bounds. No wonder people liked to come to the demon continent to gain experience. In the past, surviving the attacks of the endless ordinary demonic beasts was the best experience. Now that the beasts no longer reproduced the demonic beasts, the number of demonic beasts was greatly reduced, and they were not as ferocious as they used to be. These beasts had become the most suitable targets for training. Other sect didn't know, but the harvest of these masters of the Deshang stage in Chunyang Palace in just a few decades was almost as good as at least 100 years of hard work. Only in all kinds of life and death situations could people's potential be truly stimulated, and they could step into the real master's palace. Even Chunyang Palace was like this. Other sect must be even happier. After all, there were many masters and more people participating in the experience. However, there were also disadvantages to having more people. There were fewer opportunities for rotation, far less than Chunyang Palace, where they could be in the experience almost all the time. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling discovered during this period of experience that their combat effectiveness was no problem to deal with 2 or 3 beasts at the same time. As soon as Gao Yu's life source flying sword came out, the Emperor's aura could directly suppress the beasts by a great realm. After getting used to it once or twice, Gao Yu had to restrain her means, not to use her flying sword, not to release the Emperor's aura, otherwise it would not have the effect of the experience at all. Not to mention Gong Sunling. Now there were hundreds of masters of the Deshang stage in the Mountain River geographical map, and most of them were guys who had experienced the most ferocious time of the demon continent. Just releasing this obedient force without doing anything could scare many people, not to mention that Gong Sunling still used these guys to arrange the formation. In the beginning, when she took it seriously, several of the beasts couldn't even hold on for one round. As a last resort, Gong Sunling could only completely restrain herself and only rely on the geographical map of mountains and rivers to protect herself. Then, she tempered her experience in using other means to deal with human immortal experts. The ones who improved the fastest were Wang Yong, Gao Shiyan, and Meng Xian. Before this, the 3 of them had not experienced too many brutal massacres. Now that they had the opportunity, they made full use of it. Every beast that they fought with were killed only after they had exhausted all of their combat experience. The cultivation of the 3 of them also advanced by leaps and bounds, as if they were riding on a rocket. How could sitting and cultivating be faster than wandering on the edge of life and death all the time? Don't look at anything else. Just compare it with Ho Yun and the old tree demon, Shi Kuei and Xie Sha. Weren't these 4 fierce guys because they followed Yang Chun to kill many times outside, so their combat effectiveness was so outstanding? The power of the masters was going on step by step, and the affairs on the demon continent were also going on in an orderly manner. The 10 black-clothed elders seemed to have never appeared, and no matter which sect, they did not show any abnormalities. Chunyang Palace did not publicize it, and the people of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance dared not come out to pick a fight. They could only eat this loss, and then dare not have any crooked ideas. After Li Cheng's reminder, Yang Chen invested a lot less energy in refining the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform. He only maintained the normal refining process, and most of his energy was turned back to absorbing and fusing the fire seed. In this way, the speed of absorbing the fire seed was almost doubled. In less than 2 years, Yang Chun could absorb a 6th-grade fire seed. If this speed was seen by other fire cultivators, they would be scared out of their wits. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling have been wondering why Big Brother Li Cheng never showed up after coming to the Chunyang Palace, as if he was retreating in the Chunyang Palace. Of course, Yang Chen knew what Li Cheng was doing, and he didn't disturb him, and casually found a reason to avoid it. For his own troubles, Yang Chun was not anxious at all, as if he knew that Li Cheng would have a way. This was not intuition, but a kind of complete trust in Li Cheng's ability. 5 years later, Li Cheng finally came out of seclusion, and his face finally showed a little joy. Seeing Li Cheng's expression, Yang Chun also showed a smile. This sworn brother, sure enough, will not let him down. Greetings, uncle. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. This mysterious big brother can surprise people every time. Hello, two sisters-in-law. Li Cheng was in a good mood and returned the greeting. It was still food and wine, but this time when Yang Chun and Li Cheng drank together, it was the exquisite dishes made by Gong Sunling. And Gao Yu poured wine for the two. They enjoyed a lot. Your trouble, I finally thought of a way to solve it. When the wine was slightly drunk, Li Cheng was not afraid that Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were next to him, and said directly. As soon as Li Cheng opened his mouth, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were shocked, and the wine pot in Gao Yu's hand was almost thrown away. Was her husband in trouble? Or was it the trouble that made Li Cheng have a headache for so many years? The hearts of the two women instantly hung in their throats. Don't worry, didn't Big Brother say that they're the way to solve it? Yang Chun, of course, saw the two women's gaffe. He reached out and held Gao Yu's delicate hand, and the other hand patted Gong Sunling's arm twice, and softly comforted. The guy who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, this time you will have to bleed a lot. Looking at the indifferent Yang Chun, and looking at Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, who were almost crying, Li Cheng shook his head and quickly said the way to deal with it. You are greedy. Get ready to go bankrupt this time. After a curse, Li Cheng went on to say, at least 100 magic weapons with super spirit. There's still some things on this list. All of them have to be prepared. In addition, the spirit veins you have worked hard to collect may not be kept, and you need a lot of spiritual power. I'm afraid you have to find at least 100 spirit veins, and each one can't be worse than the 3 here. As he spoke, Li Cheng handed over a jade slip, which recorded the list of materials needed. Li Cheng obviously intended to teach Yang Chun a lesson this time. While handing over the list, he kept teaching, you are greedy. For at least 100 years in the future, I am afraid you will have to rely on alchemy to pay off the debt. Gao Yu couldn't wait to grab the jade slip. This was simply the life of her husband. Didn't you see that Yang Chun didn't dare to lift his head because of Li Qingxuan? Quickly look at what is on the list and prepare it immediately. Chapter 1479. According to Li Cheng's estimation, 100 years of alchemy was still the worst estimate. Even if Yang Chun had a strong elixir, hundreds of magic weapons with super spirit were not so easy to solve. If someone had such a thing in their hands, they would definitely use it to refine it into their own life source magic weapon instead of exchanging it for elixir. In the end, Li Cheng had to come up with a solution. However, it should also be to let Yang Chun learn a lesson first. Lest in the future, Yang Chun would still be greedy. Did he really think that after coming out of the immortal beheading stage, he could do anything? If he didn't beat Yang Chun, Li Cheng didn't know how much trouble Yang Chun would cause. Li Cheng was very satisfied with his sworn brother, but he couldn't let him do what he wanted. It was related to the safety of Yang Chun. Although he didn't know what happened to Yang Chun, even Li Cheng had to retreat for 5 years to think about a solution. It must be a big problem. The list on this jade slip was the life-saving elixir of Yang Chun. With Gao Yu's importance to Yang Chun, she couldn't wait to memorize this list at the first time. At least 100 magic weapons with super spirit, but also a huge amount of spiritual power, plus valuable materials. Any one of the conditions was enough to make a first-class sect bankrupt. Didn't you hear Li Cheng say that he wanted Yang Chun to pay off the debt by refining elixir for 100 years? But it didn't matter as long as Yang Chun could be safe and sound. So what if she went bankrupt? Not to mention that it was just going bankrupt. Even if Gao Yu used her own life to exchange for it, she would not frown. Gao Yu quickly explored the list on the jade slip, but Yang Chun couldn't believe it. He asked in surprise, just pay such a small price. If the trouble he faced could be solved with 100 years of alchemy, it would definitely be a big profit. Others didn't know what kind of benefits it was, but how could Yang Chun not know? That was the immortal slaying stage, personally refined by the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord. Just as Li Cheng had said, countless Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals drooled over it. Although Gong Sunling was also anxious, she didn't get the jade slip immediately, so she could clearly see the expression on Yang Chen's face. Looking at her husband's surprised tone, it was as if he had gotten a great deal. Even she wanted to express her husband's heart. Gao Yu finally quickly scanned the list and began to count what was ready-made in her and Yang Chen's hands. Gong Sumling took the jade slip from Gao Yu's hand with a hint of joy, and her spiritual awareness immediately explored it. Then, an indescribable expression appeared on Gong Sumling's face. It was as if she had let out a long sigh of relief, but it was also as if she was trying hard not to laugh out loud. It was awkward no matter how one looked at it. Gong Sumling's abnormality immediately attracted the attention of the three people next to her. Gao Yu was worried. When she saw Gong Sumling's appearance, she couldn't help but be angry. She almost wanted to grab this little girl and spank her. Her husband was in trouble now, but she still had the leisure to make trouble. "Sister, don't worry." Gong Sumling glanced at Yang Chun and saw that he was smiling without blame. Then she turned to Gao Yu and began to smile. "These things are not difficult." With that, without waiting for Gao Yu to react, Gong Sumling had already said to Yang Chun and Li Cheng, "Please forgive me for being presumptuous." With a wave of her hand, everyone's figure immediately disappeared in place and entered the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chun, Gao Yu, and Li Cheng did not resist at all and were substituted by Gong Sumling into a place on the mountain river geographical map. Seeing this, Gao Yu's face suddenly came to a realization, and her face also showed a relaxed expression. This was clearly the backup warehouse of the Taishaman. The space was not large, but at that time, Yang Chun directly let Gong Sumling absorb and integrate it into the mountain river geographical map. Gao Yu was in a hurry and even forgot this place. Li Cheng looked at all this in front of him and couldn't help but smile bitterly. He shook his head and sighed at Yang Chun. "How can you be so lucky?" The space in front of them was almost exactly the same as when Yang Chun and the others first entered. Except for those jade slips that had disappeared, everything else was still the same. The first thing everyone saw were more than 100 magic weapons flying up and down. Each of those magic weapons was a super magic weapon that could make people outside crazy. This was a good thing that the Taishaman had accumulated for many generations and spent a lot of manpower and material resources to plunder and refine. Every magic weapon had a spirit and could be regarded as a treasure by the Taishaman. It was definitely a treasure among treasures. In Li Cheng's opinion, the most troublesome 100 magic weapons with super spirit were so easily solved. Although Yang Chun, Gao Yu, and Gong Sumling had no time to refine these magic weapons until now, but in the hands of Li Cheng, this was not a problem. No, it was the biggest problem. Now the things were in front of him. With the strength of Li Cheng's physical body that could penetrate the demon ceiling array, subduing some trivial spirit was simply a natural thing like eating and drinking. The biggest trouble had been solved. The spiritual power of the remaining materials could be exchanged with property and elixirs, so it was not surprising. But when Li Cheng saw the things on his list placed in front of him one by one, he still couldn't help but be surprised. Did Gong Sumling's sister-in-law rob the whole world? How could these good things that countless people might not be able to hear of in their lifetime be taken out by Gong Sumling at will? And the quantity was not small, it was more than enough to meet his needs. If I can have enough spiritual power, then it will not be a big problem. Looking at all the materials prepared in front of him one by one, Li Cheng couldn't help but nod. Now, there was only one problem left. Is this enough? This time it was Gao Yu who spoke. Her face had been completely covered with happiness. Just now she was worried and forgot that her husband had made a fortune from the Taishaman, but it was not too late to remember now. With Gao Yu's words, the position of the four people changed in an instant, directly to the side of the spiritual liquid pool that the Taishaman had accumulated. Dozens of miles of wide water surface and hundreds of miles of spiritual liquid lake appeared in front of Li Cheng. Even Li Cheng was also experienced and knowledgeable. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, he would not change. Looking at this scene, he couldn't help but be speechless. He raised his hand and pointed at Yang Chun, Gao Yu, and Gong Sumling in turn. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't say anything for a while. Finally, he choked out a sentence. "You guys, divide it in half when you meet. This is the rule." After saying this, Li Cheng couldn't help but start laughing. Then Yang Chun also began to laugh. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were relatively reserved. They just covered their mouths and snickered, but the laughter of joy lingered around the four people. Chapter 1480. The savings of countless Taishaman's ancestors all benefited Yang Chen's family. To be precise, all of it now belonged to Yang Chun. According to Li Cheng's method, his method was to use hundreds of magic treasures with super artifact spirits to form a magic treasure union. What he wanted was not magic treasures, but those super artifact spirits. These super artifact spirits, Li Cheng could use a secret method and a huge amount of spiritual power to let them pass the tribulation. After reaching that level, all the artifact spirits could be completely controlled by Yang Chun and participate in the process of refining the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform. With these hundreds of artifact spirits, Yang Chen's efficiency in refining the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform could be increased by at least hundreds of times. Li Cheng's secret method was not simply to achieve the effect of 1 + 1 = 2, but could increase the efficiency by several times. Of course, if it was just an increase in efficiency, Yang Chun would not be able to completely refine the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform. Strictly speaking, it was simply impossible for an expert in the mortal world to refine the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform. However, Li Cheng had previously given Yang Chun a big killer weapon called the Merit Chapter. In the Merit Chapter, there were various applications for merit. With Li Cheng's understanding of the Immortal beheading platform, he naturally knew that Yang Chun would definitely have merit when he came out of the Immortal beheading platform. Using the Merit Chapter to assist was actually the key to Li Cheng's certainty that Yang Chun could refine the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform. What kind of effect could be achieved in the end depended on how much merit Yang Chun could invest. More than 100 magic treasures with super artifact spirits needed to be subdued and refined by Li Cheng one by one. This process could not be completed in a short period of time. However, Gao Yu was lucky this time. She could follow Li Cheng closely and learn his refining techniques. It will take about 50 years to refine these. Before starting work, Li Cheng put his words first. Since Yu wants to help, then let's go into seclusion together. Yang Chun, you can absorb the fire seeds in peace for these years and prepare to refine the prolonging life pill. Okay, Li Cheng's instructions, of course, Yang Chun would not refuse. Not to mention that Li Cheng was also teaching Gao Yu refining in disguise. Such an opportunity, Yang Chun would not let Gao Yu miss it no matter what. Now, whatever Li Cheng said was the law. To refine the prolonging life pill, just relying on the pure Yang true fire and the pure Yin true fire can achieve the effect, but the conversion efficiency of those demonic beads will not be too high. A transparent ball suddenly appeared in Li Cheng's hand. Inside the ball, a pure white flame was burning fiercely. With this kind of fire seed, the effect will be much better. Don't waste it. It could be said that Li Cheng was extremely benevolent to Yang Chun. Not only did he volunteer to help Yang Chun solve the problem of refining the beheading Immortal platform, but he also took out such a precious flame to help Yang Chun refine the prolonging life pill. Yang Chun took the transparent ball with both hands. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't. Some gratitude should be kept in one's heart. There was no need to verbalize it, as it would seem pretentious. The place of retreat was naturally in the mountain river geographical map of Gong Sunling. The spiritual solution could be used nearby, and there was no need to worry about being disturbed. Originally, Li Cheng also wanted to use the spiritual solution collected by Yang Chun in the Dragon Gourd, but with the spiritual solution Lake and Taishaman, the spiritual power needed was enough, and those spiritual solutions could naturally be saved. Moreover, the Dragon Gourd was now being refined by a Zhu and a Bai, and it couldn't be used. It was related to the safety of Yang Chun. Li Cheng and Gao Yu were in retreat in the Mountain River geographical map, and Gong Sunling was also carefully serving him. Yang Chun became a lonely person in a blink of an eye. Holding the transparent ball given by Li Cheng, Yang Chun's eyes flashed with confusion. This kind of white fire seed, Yang Chun couldn't recognize what kind of fire seed it was. In his previous life, Yang Chun was also a fire cultivator. He had basically seen all the fire seeds he could see, but he had never seen this kind of white flame fire seed. Although he didn't know and couldn't call out the name, Yang Chun firmly believed that Li Cheng's products must be of high quality. This was beyond doubt. Since Li Cheng said that this kind of fire seed could improve the effect of the prolonging life pill, it must have this effect. This time, Yang Chun could be regarded as picking up a treasure. After getting the fire seed given by Li Cheng, Yang Chun did not immediately absorb and integrate it, and continued his previous work, integrating the 6th grade fire seed. Since this unknown white fire seed could be on par with the pure Yang True Fire and Purine True Fire, and could also increase the efficacy, it was at least the 7th grade level. Yang Chun couldn't act rashly. The days continued to return to peace and order. The formation that absorbs the demonic energy has now absorbed almost 3/4 of the demonic energy in the demon continent, and now the area affected by the demonic energy is still further shrinking. However, as he got closer to the core area, the slower the absorption of the demonic energy and the more difficult it seemed to be. Everyone could understand this. The closer to the core area, the deeper the influence of the demonic energy and the stronger the demonic beast, the more troublesome it would be to clean it up. Seeing that in another 10 years, the area affected by the demonic energy would be reduced to the core area. At this time, if someone moved the formation that absorbs the demonic energy, it would make all the previous efforts wasted. Fortunately, the formation was now arranged in the demon sealing array. Otherwise, the major sect would definitely strictly order all the disciples not to touch the formation. In the core area of the demon sealing array, the object of the Deshang stage and the great master's experience has now become the 2nd and 3rd grade human immortal beasts. The 1st grade human immortal beasts have basically been slaughtered by the sect. These beasts, even if they were purified by the demonic energy, could not be subdued. Therefore, it was their only fate to be killed to harvest the demonic bead. Yang Chun sat in the Chunyang Palace and didn't care about the outside world at all. The calmness of the Chunyang Palace also made some people outside not know what was going on, and they couldn't come to ask for advice. Their days were extremely uncomfortable. 30 years after the sect's army came to the demon continent, the first batch of mortals migrated by the sect also began to arrive one after another, taking root and living on the already developed demon continent. It couldn't be helped. It would take about 10 years to come all the way here. Going back and forth to confirm the news, plus the construction time in the middle, there was no way to save anymore. The second batch of mortals who came to the Chunyang Palace was the second batch. The first batch had already taken root and even gave birth to the next generation. In addition to the second batch of mortals who had just migrated, now the number of mortals in the Chunyang Palace alone had exceeded 20 million. It was believed that after 100 years, this number could increase to hundreds of millions. The development of these sects on the demon continent in the future was already a sure thing, and there would be no more accidents. Now everyone's energy, in addition to the construction of their own sect, was to work together to keep out the large and small sect that got the news later. Chapter 1481. At this time, Yang Chun basically didn't care about this kind of trivial matter. After coming to the demon continent for 30 years, it was enough for Chunyang Palace to have more than a dozen Deshang stage masters. As long as Yang Chun was in the Chunyang Palace alone, no one would dare to come to make trouble easily. Other things were naturally dealt with by the Yuanying stage elders in an orderly manner. In a blink of an eye, another 10 years passed. In 2 decades, Yang Chun has absorbed another 10 kinds of 6th grade fire seeds, and the Yin-Yang heaven-burning fire was close to the great accomplishment stage. The things that Li Cheng refined with Gao Yu and Gong Sunling had not yet been completed. He didn't know how long it would take, so Yang Chun could only wait patiently. The 6th grade fire seeds in his hand were absorbed one by one, and Yang Chen's fire attribute cultivation base was also soaring. His fire attribute spirit power alone has grown to the peak Deshang stage. There was no way around it. The 6th grade fire seed had such a powerful power. If it weren't for the balance of the 5 elements of yin and yang, Yang Chun would have to spend some time to forcibly transform the fire attribute spirit power into other attributes of spirit power. With just a single attribute, Yang Chun had already entered the edge of the tribulation. Any kind of 6th grade fire seed could help a master of the Dashang stage, not to mention dozens of 6th grade fire seeds concentrated in one person. With the more 6th grade fire seeds he absorbed, Yang Chen's speed of absorbing and fusing the fire seeds became faster and faster. When Chunyang Palace cultivated the 24th master of the Dashang stage with the help of various experiences and Yang Chen's 7 emotions and 6 desires pills, the 6th grade fire seeds in Yang Chen's body were finally all integrated. For ordinary fire cultivators, not to mention so many 6th grade fire seeds with different attributes, just one of them could basically determine the future of a great principal golden immortal. It must be known that in his previous life, Yang Chun only had the 5th grade true sun fire, and he became a great principal golden immortal. The 6th grade fire seed was a whole level higher than the 5th grade fire seed. But now in Yang Chen's body, all the 6th grade fire seeds that could be collected in the mortal world have been absorbed and integrated. This is just a new starting point for Yang Chun. What he really has to do next is the ultimate goal, to absorb and integrate the 7th grade fire seed. For the time being, Yang Chun did not want to frequently use the merit chapter to help him absorb the 7th grade fire seed. That was cheating, not improving his ability to control the fire seed. The memory and experience of his previous life, coupled with the experience of playing with fire seeds below the 7th grade in this life, made Yang Chun full of confidence to accept the test of the 7th grade fire seed. Especially after adding the experience of controlling the pure Yang true fire left by the ancestral master. It made Yang Chun even more powerful. The first thing to absorb and fuse was the pure Yang true fire. When Yang Chun first got the pure Yang true fire, he thought that he would be able to control the pure Yang true fire within 300 years. But the reality gave Yang Chun a solid lesson. Up to now, it had been almost 800 years before he had the ability to touch the pure Yang true fire. Even if Yang Chun was familiar with the fire, before he began to absorb the pure Yang true fire, he still took a bath and burned incense seriously. After worshipping the ancestral master, he told all the disciples not to disturb him at will and began to absorb it like a retreat. In terms of power, the power of the current yin-yang heaven-burning fire was no less than any kind of 7th grade fire seed, and it was even more powerful than a concentrated 7th grade fire seed. But when it came to the risk of absorption, all the previous risks added up were far less dangerous than a kind of 7th grade fire seed. Perhaps it was the blessing of the ancestral master, or perhaps it was because Yang Chun had all kinds of experience and a huge amount of merit to guard at all times. He was fearless and confident. The first wisp of pure Yang true fire was successfully absorbed. With the first wisp, there was a second wisp, a third wisp, and a little bit made a mickle. After Yang Chun carefully spent almost 15 years, the pure Yang true fire was completely absorbed by Yang Chun and successfully integrated into the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. At this moment, the third fire spirit power suddenly broke through the limit of the Dashang stage and directly entered the peak of the 1st grade human immortal, only a little bit away from the realm of the 2nd grade human immortal. Fortunately, Yang Chun was in the demon seal formation and did not trigger the heavenly tribulation. The successful absorption of the pure Yang true fire gave Yang Chun a boost in confidence. If this happened hundreds of years ago, Yang Chun would definitely rush out to find a few short-sighted guys to kill them and try the power of the 7th grade fire seed. But now, Yang Chun just took a simple break and paid attention to the results of Li Cheng's retreat and paid attention to the major events of the Pure Yang Palace. He didn't do much else and didn't even go to the main hall of the Pure Yang Palace. Li Cheng was still in seclusion, and Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were observing and serving. Refining things for Yang Chun, they were more attentive than Yang Chun. There was no major event in the Pure Yang Palace. Everything was normal. Now in the past 45 years, the absorption of the demonic qi has been completed for the vast majority. Basically, there was no demonic qi outside the core area. Only a few hundred miles in the core area still had a high concentration of demonic qi. Everything was as Yang Chun estimated in the past. The demonic chi would disappear within 50 years. The beasts used by the sect to gain experience have now reached the realm of the 4th grade human immortal. They didn't dare to move any higher. They were waiting for the great elders of all parties to arrive before they could make a move. This kind of experience object that could not be sought was an opportunity for the great masters of the major sect. Chunyang Palace had more than a dozen Deshang stage masters. Under the cruel life and death tempering of the demonic chi of the demon continent and the demonized monsters, coupled with the help of the questioning inner heart pills and 7 emotions and 6 desires pills of Chunyang Palace, the number of Deshang stage masters added by Chunyang Palace during this period far exceeded that of other sect. In just over 40 years, there were more than 30, which made people extremely envious and jealous. Jealousy was jealousy, but they couldn't be offended. Every party wanted to have a good relationship with Chunyang Palace and Yangchen. Not to mention anything else, just these dozens of new Deshang stage masters had clearly demonstrated the benefits of being on good terms with Yangchen. The Deshang stage masters produced by Yangchen's medicinal pills were even more than the Deshang stage masters naturally added by the major sect since Yangchen began to cultivate. Ancestor Wang Yong, Gao Shiyan, and Elder Meng Xian have all rushed back to the Dao sect after enough experience, and the core elders, such as the head of the palace and Gung Feng, who were still in the sect, came over. There were not many opportunities to use the human immortal level beasts as experience objects, so they had to seize it anyway. When he came, Yangchen was in retreat, so he did not meet with Yangchen and went directly to the core demon seal array. After learning that everything was normal, Yangchen began to retreat again with confidence. This time, Yangchen's goal was the 7th grade fire seed, which was the opposite of the pure Yang true fire. The pure silver true fire was also an essential 7th grade fire seed for refining the prolonging life pill. As long as the pure Yin true fire was absorbed, he could start refining the prolonging life pill. Chapter 1482. In terms of absorbing the pure Yin true fire, Yangchen also had experience. Under the Languel, Yangchen once helped Tao Junkie absorb the pure Yin true fire as a life source fire seed, although he used the merit and virtue protection at that time. After all, it was also an experience of absorbing the 7th grade fire seed. With that experience, Yangchen had a lot more knowledge of the pure Yin true fire. Coupled with the confidence of absorbing the pure Yang true fire, Yangchen was also full of confidence in absorbing the pure Yin true fire. The 7th grade fire seed was the 7th grade fire seed. In any case, Yangchen could not save much time. From the first pure Yin true fire entered the body and integrated into the Yin Yang heaven burning fire, to enough fire seeds were absorbed by Yangchen. Another 15 years passed in a blink of an eye. The 4th fire spirit power also skyrocketed. On the basis of the previous pure Yang true fire, the 3rd fire and 4th fire spirit power broke through the limit of the human immortal 1st grade and entered the realm of the human immortal 2nd grade. The other attributes of spirit power, driven by the 3rd fire and 4th fire spirit power, rushed straight to the peak Deshang stage. The spirit power of Yangchen's whole body swelled, and the clothes on his body moved without wind. The yin-yang heaven-burning fire in his body finally reached a balance after absorbing the pure yin true fire. 2 fire dragons. One was only left with a faint translucent cyan color, and the other almost turned into a thick dark purple. The fire dragon had scales and claws. Under the control of Yangchen, it was like 2 living dragons flying up and down. When the sea of consciousness was balanced by the 3rd fire and 4th fire, it suddenly swelled up and directly expanded more than twice, and then slowly shrank under the strong pressure and stopped when it reached a radius of 10,000 acres. In the sea of consciousness, the 2 fire dragons completely became a behemoth, and the length was almost comparable to the Blood River. The color was exactly the same as the 2 fire dragons of the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. In the demon seal formation of the pure Yang Palace, everyone felt a terrifying and unparalleled pressure, which made people want to immediately kneel on the ground and worship, and they did not even have the will to resist. Fortunately, this coercion was just pure coercion, and it did not contain murderous intent or other malice. This made the masters of Chunyang Palace feel a little relieved, even though they were frightened. The pressure disappeared as quickly as it came. Before anyone could find the source of the pressure, it had already disappeared without a trace. However, the principal elders of the pure Yang Side Palace could clearly sense that the pressure came from the rear hall. The rear hall was where the young palace lord, Yang Chun, cultivated in seclusion. Only he could make all the disciples bow their heads. Of course, this also meant that Yang Chen's cultivation base was higher, and the pure Yang Side Palace was more safe and sound. Not long after, the elder on duty received Yang Chen's call and hurried to the rear hall. Yang Chen didn't call him over for any important instructions. He just continued to learn about the current situation on the Demon Continent. There was basically not much change in the Demon Continent, and each sect was still developing step by step. However, in the core Demon Seal formation, there were only beasts above the 5th grade of the human immortal realm left. Although the number was less than 1,000, in terms of strength, it could be said to be 90% of the combat power of the entire Demon Continent. This level of beasts was no longer something that ordinary masters of the Deshang stage could provoke. In Chunyang Palace, except for the old tree demon and Ho Yun, who could deal with a 5th grade human immortal realm beast, other people were not qualified to join the battle circle at all. Even if Ho Yun and the old tree demon joined forces, they could only fight to a draw with a 5th grade human immortal realm beast. There was no need to worry about self-preservation. There was no chance to kill at all. The beasts above the 5th grade human immortal realm had now become a sharp sword hanging over the heads of all the sect in the Demon Continent. No one knew when it would erupt completely. Now the only thing everyone could rely on was the Demon Seal formation. If there was any danger at that time, they might have to make other plans. Yang Chun said that as long as the demonic chi was exhausted, these beasts would ascend immediately. Now no one dared to conclude whether the demonic chi on the beasts inside had been completely cleaned up, but those of the 5th grade human immortal realm beasts on the outermost periphery were already clean, and there was no longer any tacit contamination. It was just because of the obstruction of the Demon Seal formation, there was no chance to ascend. Once all the sect was aware of the danger, the first thing everyone had to do was to remove the Demon Seal formation and trigger the heavenly tribulation. This was very clean and neat, leaving no future trouble. However, so many beasts above the 5th grade human immortal realm, no one was willing to let them ascend. The beasts below the 4th grade human immortal realm must have a devilish bead, let alone this kind of higher-level devilish bead. According to the judgment of those who knew the goods, the devilish bead in their hands, if used purely to improve their cultivation base, the 1st grade human immortal realm could add 1,000 years of cultivation base to a person. Not to mention that Yang Chun once said that the devilish bead above the 5th grade human immortal realm was the main medicinal material for refining the longevity pill. For those masters with good qualifications, it was absolutely not advisable to directly take the devilish bead to increase their cultivation base, but taking the longevity pill to increase their lifespan was definitely an irresistible temptation. Whether it was a mortal or a cultivator, no one would dislike their long life, right? Yang Chun had not appeared, and the major sect had been keeping these beasts in captivity. Occasionally, a few masters would be used to practice, and the ordinary masters of the Deshang stage had no chance and returned to their respective sect. From the completion of the formation to the present, it had been 60 years. According to Yang Chen's estimation, all the demonic chi should have been cleaned up. However, no one knew what was going on inside. Even Elder Wang, who had the strongest cultivation base at that time, did not have the courage to enter the core area at this time and explore what was going on inside. Yang Chun once said that after 100 years, now only a few decades had passed, no one dared to urge Yang Chun on this, for fear of making Yang Chun unhappy. But the major sects were not without any gains. The strongest master of each sect had a cultivation base that exceeded the 5th grade human immortal realm, but it was limited to 1 or 2. Recently, they had been planning whether they could start hunting the beasts above the 5th grade human immortal realm to prepare the materials for Yang Chun to refine the longevity pill in the future. It was just because they didn't know Yang Chen's attitude, so they hadn't started. Inform the major sect and let them rest assured that they can hunt as much as they want. Yang Chen casually told the elder on duty, I still need to prepare for a while. Although the devilish bead of the 5th grade human immortal realm was good, it was definitely much worse than those devilish beads that had absorbed the demonic chi of the entire demon continent. Moreover, Yang Chun still had the core of the demon continent, which could produce stronger devilish beads anytime and anywhere. There was no need to compete with others for these so-called resources. Chapter 1483. The news released by Yang Chun was very exciting. Although Yang Chun did not say that he was ready, but from the performance of Yang Chun in alchemy in the past, Yang Chun has never lied. He still needed a period of time to prepare, but it was not a long time. In fact, it was not impossible to start refining the longevity pill now. However, since Li Cheng said that adding another kind of fire seed would give him more assurance, Yang Chun certainly strived to be more stable. Although it may waste more than 10 years, it could save more materials. The white flame that Li Cheng gave to Yang Chun was taken out by Yang Chun again. After careful exploration for a long time, he decided not to absorb and fuse this kind of fire seed first, but to absorb another 7th grade fire seed first. Since he had already pursued stability, it would be more stable. This kind of fire seed, he would wait until Li Cheng came out of seclusion. There was also a ready-made 7th grade fire seed in his hand, which Yang Chun had contact with before, that is, the life source fire seed of the profound spirit furnace when the original physical body was still there, spirit-devouring dragon fire. When Yang Chun came into contact with the spirit-devouring dragon fire under the Lanya well, at that time, Yang Chun could not rely on his own ability to compete with it. He could only use the merit chapter and use a huge amount of merit to help himself forcibly collect the spirit-devouring dragon fire into the profound spirit furnace. In the previous experience, he had also been exposed to this kind of fire seed, especially when the dragon spirit was still there. The spirit-devouring dragon fire was his life source fire seed. Yang Chun could learn how to control this kind of fire seed through him. After absorbing the pure Yang True Fire and the pure Yin True Fire, Yang Chun was already confident in controlling the 7th grade fire seed. There's also a dragon spirit around him that could guide him carefully. The process of absorbing the spirit-devouring dragon fire was not difficult at all. The only thing he needed was time. Yang Chen's spiritual power cultivation base has been rapidly improved, and his spiritual awareness cultivation base has reached the realm of the 2nd grade of the Earth Immortal, and it was more convenient to control it. It took only 12 years to completely absorb and integrate the spirit-devouring dragon fire, which was 3 years less than the 15 years of the pure Yang True Fire and the pure Yin True Fire. When Yang Chun finished absorbing the spirit-devouring dragon fire and came out of seclusion, he was delighted to find that Li Cheng had also come out of seclusion. Gao Yu Gong Sunling was waiting for Yang Chun to come out of seclusion with a face full of joy. There must be some good news. Husband, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling happily called Yang Chun. If Li Cheng wasn't far away, the two women would have thrown themselves into Yang Chen's arms immediately. Big brother. Yang Chen nodded at the two women and bowed to Li Cheng without saying anything. My luck is pretty good this time. Li Cheng looked at Yang Chun and nodded as well. Then, he gave Yang Chen a piece of good news. The refining of the magic treasures has basically been completed. There's only one last step left. Looks like you didn't waste your time either. Your cultivation has improved quite well. Li Cheng didn't say what the last step was, and Yang Chen certainly wouldn't ask. When Li Cheng needed him to know, he would definitely let him know. Since he didn't say it, there must be a reason. However, Li Cheng was very satisfied with Yang Chen's cultivation during this time. The fire seed I gave you, have you absorbed it? It was not surprising that Li Cheng could see Yang Chen's cultivation at a glance, but he still couldn't see that Yang Chen's yin-yang heaven-burning fire had merged with those fire seeds. So he quickly asked, Big brother, I studied the fire seed you gave me for a while, but I can't understand it. Yang Chen didn't show off this time. He replied very truthfully. I haven't moved for the time being. I will wait for Big Brother to come out of seclusion before asking. Then what have you fused with these days? Li Cheng was immediately curious and immediately asked. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling want to know more about their husband's experience. Naturally, they also pricked up their ears for fear of missing anything. This younger brother has absorbed pure Yang true fire, pure Yin true fire, and spirit-devouring dragon fire. Yang Chan didn't dare to neglect and immediately answered honestly. After answering, he didn't wait for Li Cheng and the two women to ask questions. He immediately said the reason why he absorbed and integrated these three kinds of fire seeds first. After listening to Yang Chen, Li Cheng's face, which was just a smile, finally showed a more brilliant smile. It seems that you have a long memory. You know that you shouldn't touch things that you don't understand completely. Li Cheng's words directly scared Yang Chen. Could it be that the purpose of Li Cheng giving him the white flame was to test him to see if he remembered the previous lesson? Fortunately, he always felt that it was safe and he had the opportunity to ask Li Cheng more, so he didn't rush to absorb it. If he was hot-headed at that time, Yang Chen didn't know what the consequences would be. Having said that, he knew that it was safe. It might not be because of the influence of the previous things. When he couldn't completely understand those things, whether it was the entrance to the immortal beheading platform or the white flame, it was better not to act rashly. In this way, it was not in vain for me to go into seclusion for so many years. Li Cheng's words were easy, but Yang Chen had an indescribable fear. If it wasn't for his good performance, he would have almost been given up by Li Cheng. Although Li Cheng would still recognize him as a sworn brother, Yang Chen had a feeling that after the accident, he would not be as important as before. Yang Chen didn't know why he attached so much importance to Li Cheng's view, but he felt that things should be like this. Perhaps it was because of Li Cheng's mysterious cultivation, or perhaps it was because of other reasons, but in any case, it was not bad for him to believe in Li Cheng. This combination magic treasure is still missing one last step. Li Cheng immediately said, "The artifact spirit has passed the tribulation." After all the artifact spirits have successfully passed the tribulation, we can proceed to the next step. It was another big move. Yang Chen didn't know how Li Cheng did it. The magic treasure artifact spirit in his hands, a dragon spirit, plus a Zhu and a Bai, all had the ability to pass the tribulation by various chance coincidences. However, Li Cheng actually took more than 100 magic treasures of any random artifact spirit and combined them together. He could even let the magic treasure pass the tribulation. This method was really unpredictable. The fire seed is a bit mysterious. It can't be absorbed by ordinary methods. Li Cheng's words still continued. When all the artifact spirits have passed the tribulation, I will show you how to collect those fire seeds. Thank you, Big Brother. Yang Chen didn't know what to say at the moment or what to say to express his gratitude, so he still said these words in a vulgar way. You and I are brothers. There is no need to say this nonsense. Li Cheng waved his hand gently and said very casually, in fact, I am also very curious about what effect your longevity pill can have. If it is successful, you can extend your lifespan with the level of a mere 5th grade alchemy master. You will be the first person among the alchemy masters. Chapter 1484. Li Cheng's words made Yang Chen excited, even more exciting than everyone else in the world admitting that he was the best alchemist. Yang Chen didn't know why. He only knew that his sworn brother had such charm. A word of praise could make him happy for a long time. This kind of mood Yang Chen had never had even in front of Gao Yu. It had to be said that Li Cheng's mystery still made Yang Chen afraid, but it inexplicably made him feel close to him. In some ways, Yang Chen was extremely respectful of Li Cheng. Yes, not only admiration, but also admiration. Not to mention anything else. Just in terms of refining, Yang Chen did not dare to say that he could subdue more than 100 high-level spiritual weapons in a mere 50 years, let alone let so many super tool spirits cross their tribulation. However, Li Cheng did it. Although he hasn't seen the scene of the tool spirit's tribulation yet, Yang Chen firmly believes that he will be able to appreciate it soon. Li Cheng really did not let Yang Chen down, and directly left the Pure Yang Palace with Yang Chun and Gao Yu Gong Sunling, preparing for the Tool Spirit's tribulation. The Pure Yang Palace was surrounded by the Demon Sealing Formation, and it could not attract the tribulation at all. The place of the tribulation must be out of the scope of the Demon Sealing Formation. This time, Yang Chun did not inform anyone else to watch the ceremony. Just the family of 3 riding Li Cheng's iron-winged eagle mount followed Li Cheng all the way south, straight to the seaside. It was far away from the scope of the Pure Yang Palace, and it was far away from the residential areas of those mortals. Yang Chen did not ask why along the way. Hundreds of super tool spirits crossing their tribulation at the same time. That kind of power could definitely turn all the mortals within 1,000 miles of the tribulation area into ashes. Until they reached the edge of the super large formation that blocked the demon continent, Li Cheng stopped. After the 4 people took a short break, Li Cheng finally took out the super magic weapon that had been refined. To Yang Chen's surprise, the super magic weapon turned out to be in the shape of an armor. In Yang Chen's imagination, a super artifact composed of so many offensive artifacts should at least be a weapon. He never expected that it would turn into a defensive artifact. When their sworn big brother made a move, it was really hard to grasp. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling had seen the whole picture of this magic weapon, so they were not very surprised. There was even a hint of pride in Gao Yu's eyes. Presumably, she had also contributed a lot to the refining of this super magic treasure. Li Cheng very casually threw the super magic treasure far away, then picked up the wine glass, waiting for Gong Sunling to pour wine for him. He did not even look over there, as if everything was already decided and there would be no more surprises. The eyes of Yang Chun, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling involuntarily stared at the armor, rotating with the flight of the armor. As soon as the armor left Li Cheng's hand, tribulation clouds began to condense in the sky without any warning. It was as if Li Cheng had a small demon sealing formation in his hand, which was shielding him from the heavenly tribulation. In this regard, no one in Yang Chen's family showed any abnormality, just staring at the situation of the armor at the moment. The armor in flight flew a full 10 miles away, and the first thunder tribulation finally began to descend. Unlike the artifact spirit tribulation that Yang Chun had seen before, more than 100 artifact spirits did not appear, and the thunder tribulation fell directly on the armor. Boom! The violent explosion spread hundreds of miles away, and the super strong thunder tribulation, triggered by more than 100 artifact spirits at the same time, broke out solidly, and even the sealing formation barrier that surrounded the entire demon continent shook slightly. At this time, Yang Chun noticed that the position of the armor at the moment was just on the edge of the sealing formation barrier. Obviously, this was done consciously by Li Cheng. Otherwise, with Li Cheng's control, there would be no mistake of accidentally placing it here. Yes, just take this opportunity to help you, so that you don't have to work hard in the future. When Yang Chun looked over, Li Cheng nodded briskly. More than 100 tribulation masters, plus the power of the heavenly tribulation, is enough to blow up this formation. Yang Chun had told Li Cheng about his plan on the demon continent before, so it was not surprising that Li Cheng knew what Yang Chun was going to do. Now Li Cheng frankly said that he wanted to help Yang Chun solve the trouble, so that Yang Chun would not have to owe a favor and hire a master for it. Yang Chun also had an indescribable feeling in his heart. However, it was clear that the power of the thunder tribulation alone was not enough to collapse the formation that surrounded the entire demon continent. The invisible barrier seemed to only shake violently a few times within a certain range, and then there was no more movement. In this regard, Yang Chun was not in a hurry at all. The real time to exert his strength was when he faced the wind tribulation, and now he didn't have to worry at all. On the contrary, Yang Chun had to worry about the huge power of more than 100 wind tribulation superimposed together, whether the armor could survive it. Both Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were involved in the process of refining the armor, and they attached great importance to the tribulation of the armor. Their eyes were almost staring at the other side, without blinking, for fear of missing something. Even when Yang Chun and Li Cheng were talking, their eyes did not leave the armor, but their ears perked up and listened to a few words. Others don't know the power of more than 100 wind tribulations superimposed, but Yang Chun was very clear in his heart. Unless the strength of those tool spirits reached at least the second grade of human immortal, it was estimated that they could successfully survive that kind of heavenly tribulation. But could Li Cheng really train more than 100 tool spirits who had not yet reached the level of crossing tribulation to that point in just 50 years? Watching the thunder tribulation fall one by one, soon, the 9 thunder tribulation were easily passed. As soon as the tribulation cloud dispersed, it began to condense again. This time, it was the Een fire tribulation. The power of the Een fire tribulation was at least 100 times greater than that of the thunder tribulation. Every Een fire could make the outer formation barrier shake violently, as if the barrier would shatter under such a violent vibration in the next moment. With the distance between Yang Chun and the armor, it was basically inevitable that they would be enveloped in the scope of the heavenly tribulation. However, Yang Chun had a way to avoid it. Moreover, this large-scale heavenly tribulation was just enough for him to absorb a lot of heavenly tribulation chi, which was used to refine the 7 emotions and 6 desires pill. Although these pills were basically not used by Yang Chen's family, they were very good things for the disciples of the sect or for sale. It's a bit interesting, seeing Yang Chun quietly absorbing the heavenly tribulation chi. Li Cheng had never seen and never knew that Yang Chun had such a set, and he nodded again and again. Under the gaze of the 4 people, the 9 Een fire tribulation was also passed without any danger. Basically, so far, the armor had more power to spare. Thinking about it, it was originally going to cross the wind tribulation. It would not capsize in the Een fire tribulation. Finally, the tribulation cloud in the sky condensed again, and the wind tribulation began to descend. Chapter 1485. Compared with the huge momentum of the thunder tribulation and Een fire tribulation, the movement of the wind tribulation was like an inconspicuous little thing. Without even a sound, it fell silently. However, the power of the heavens tribulation was no trivial matter. The first wind tribulation directly wrapped the entire armor in the invisible wind. The armor didn't seem to have changed much, but the barrier of the ceiling formation was quietly blown open a small hole. Under the protection of Yang Chun, none of the 4 were affected by the heavens tribulation, and the situation here could be seen clearly. As soon as the small hole was opened, Yang Chun was a little shocked on the spot. He thought that it would take dozens of supreme masters to break this ceiling formation, but now it seemed that there was no need at all. It was a critical moment now. Yang Chun carefully absorbed the aura of the heavens tribulation while paying attention to the situation of the armor. The weapon spirit's tribulation didn't seem to interfere with it for the time being, but it was better to avoid accidents as much as possible. The second wind tribulation, the third wind tribulation, until the 7th wind tribulation, the armor had been floating there from beginning to end, rotating slowly. There was no other change, except for the slight change in color with each heavens tribulation. On the contrary, the ceiling formation on the periphery had not only been broken open, but the wind tribulation had directly blown away dozens of miles long. The formation that had originally wrapped the entire demon continent had the first breakpoint except for the entrance. At this point, Yang Chen's heart had completely returned to his stomach. It was no longer a problem for the armor to survive this super heavens tribulation. What Yang Chen cared about was whether the last 2 wind tribulation could completely break the ceiling formation. Li Cheng was still the powerful Li Cheng, capable of doing what others couldn't. At least Yang Chen didn't have such means. In just 50 years, not to mention letting more than 100 weapon spirits cross the tribulation at the same time, it was still the heavens tribulation with superimposed power. Like a chain reaction, when the 8th wind tribulation blew the barrier of the ceiling formation away for more than 100 miles, the invisible barrier suddenly began to shatter. Starting from the fracture on both sides, the cracking sound continued, and soon it spread to thousands of miles away. The sound of caca continued, starting along the coastline of the demon continent, collapsing all the way to farther places. On the other side, the 9th wind tribulation had arrived. This time, The armor was no longer as still as before. Instead, it suddenly burst forth with a dazzling light. Even if the cultivation base was as strong as Yang Chun, Gao Yu, and Gong Sun Ling, in the face of this strong light, they had to close their eyes tightly until the strong light that could be seen through the eyelids disappeared, and then they opened their eyes again. The sky had already begun to return to normal, and the tribulation clouds had disappeared without a trace, revealing a large expanse of clear sky. The armor was still the same as before, quietly floating in the air, slowly rotating. Even its color had returned to its original color, and there seemed to be no change. Separated by such a distance, Yang Chun could feel the kind of aura coming from the armor, like that of a hermit in the deep mountains. At first glance, it was definitely an extremely ordinary and slightly shabby armor, which was not worthy of having more than 100 tribulation spirits. Sister-in-law said that you might like this style. Li Chung looked at the armor that had already passed the tribulation and explained casually. The sister-in-law in his mouth, of course, referred to Gao Yu. All the clothes and decorations on Yang Chen's body now were done by Gao Yu. Even the design of this armor was no exception. "Thank you, big brother." Yang Chun thanked Li Chung again, but his big hand had already held the small hands of Gao Yu and Gong Sunling together. There is no need to say thank you between husband and wife. Gao Yu's empty hand waved, and the armor in the distance flew up and quickly came to this side. After a while, the armor was in the hands of Gao Yu. Gao Yu stroked the armor with her delicate hand and carefully explored it with her spiritual awareness, as if checking for any flaws. After a while, the armor was put on the shoulder of Yang Chun. As soon as it touched Yang Chen's body, the armor suddenly began to deform. Like a living thing, it quickly opened a few holes and saw Yang Chen's body wrapped in it. Then there was a rapid deformation, and it returned to the original appearance of the armor. This was a half-body armor, which only wrapped Yang Chen's body, and his arms and legs were exposed. Because the size could be adjusted at any time, it was very fitting. Wearing it on Yang Chen's body, it just made Yang Chen's huge body more and more sturdy. Seeing Yang Chen put on the armor, Gong Sunling's mouth quietly cracked. Her small hand struggled and broke free from Yang Chen's hand, and then a dozen ordinary magic weapons went to Yang Chen's face. Yang Chen stood in the same place and didn't move. A dozen ordinary magic weapons couldn't even break his skin that was tempered by the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Gong Sunling's move was obviously to test the power of the armor. Without waiting for the dozen magic weapons to touch Yang Chun, when they were almost 2 feet away from him, in all directions on the armor, more than a dozen sword shadows burst out and directly cut those magic weapons. Without any mishap, the dozen or so magic treasures directly exploded into powder and fell to the ground. Yang Chen's body was unscathed. The strongest defense is still offense. Li Chung said with a smile on the side, all the defensive actions of this armor are actually offensive. Although you can't use the defensive function for the time being, it is also a good gift to see which sister-in-law needs it in the future. Li Chung has long been aware of Yang Chen's abnormal defense. This magic weapon was not intended for Yang Chen's protection, but to solve the trouble of the Immortal beheading stage. As for how Yang Chen would use it after solving the problem, it was Yang Chen's own business. There is a cultivation method here. After cultivating, you can control these tribulation weapon spirits. Li Chung directly handed over 2 pieces of jade slips and introduced them one by one. This one is to use these weapon spirits to arrange a simple virtual array, and at the same time refine the entrance of the Immortal beheading stage. It can improve the efficiency by hundreds of times. I believe that within 200 or 300 years, if you go all out, refining the entrance of the Immortal beheading stage will not be a problem. That fire seed is a bit special. Without waiting for Yang Chen to speak, Li Chung had already rushed to continue, as if he wanted to say what he wanted to say at once, not leaving any chance for Yang Chen when absorbing and fusing. First use the 3rd fire method, then use the 4th fire method. The last 2 combined. The time may be a little longer, 20 or 30 years. After absorbing, it will only be good for your alchemy. There's no harm. Chapter 1486. Listening to Li Cheng's words, Yang Chen was shocked for a while. The strongest fire seed in the mortal world was only a 7th grade fire seed, and Yang Chun has already absorbed 3 kinds of 7th grade fire seeds. Even if it was a 7th grade fire seed that he was not familiar with these 3 as a foundation, no matter how he absorbed it, it would not take more than 15 years. What he never expected was that the fire seed given by Li Cheng needed to be divided into 3 steps to be fully absorbed, and it also required at least twice the time of pure Yang true fire and purine true fire. What kind of fire seed was this? How could it have such a strong performance? Yang Chun never doubted that Li Cheng would want to use this kind of fire seed to murder himself. In times of crisis, Yang Chun had the means to save his life. Not to mention anything else, the merit book was enough for Yang Chun to get through this situation safely. Others didn't know that Yang Chun had the merit book, but Li Cheng was very clear about it, because the merit book itself was given to Yang Chun by Li Cheng. Therefore, if it was not for the purpose of murdering Yang Chun, then there was only one remaining reason. That was to test whether Yang Chun had really learned a lesson this time. Such a test may be suspicion or vigilance. Of course, Li Cheng didn't need to guard against Yang Chun. Then perhaps it could also be simply attributed to concern for Yang Chun. In the end, Yang Chun was still Li Cheng's sworn brother. From the perspective of concern, it was not too much for the elder brother to teach the younger brother a lesson. However, with Yang Chen's understanding of Li Cheng, it seemed that there was no need for him to carry out such a care test. Some words could be directly said. There was no need to arrange such twists and turns. In this case, there was another profound meaning in such an arrangement. When Yang Chun wanted to deliberately test a person, if it was not out of concern, not out of precaution, then it was because he wanted to use this person to do something to see if he was suitable. What does Li Cheng want with Yang Chun? Yang Chun couldn't think of anything at the moment, but judging from his previous behavior, it should be something big. Once Yang Chun needed to act, it was a critical moment. Even Li Cheng needed to be so cautious to test Yang Chun. What kind of big event was he plotting? After staying here for 50 years, there are some things that need to be done quickly. While Yang Chun was thinking, Li Cheng didn't give Yang Chun time to think and said directly, "I should go too." "Big brother, you're leaving?" Yang Chun was stunned, but he immediately felt relieved. He and this sworn brother of his had never spent a long time together. This time, Li Cheng had gone into seclusion to refine the combination magic treasure, which was already the longest. After absorbing the fire seed, there shouldn't be anything else on your side. Li Cheng nodded and cupped his hands at Yang Chun. "I'll go back and settle down. It's time for me to ascend. The next time we meet, it should be in the spirit realm. Little brother, see you later. Big brother, see you later." Yang Chun also cupped his hands at Li Cheng, and the 2 women beside him bowed to Li Cheng and followed their husband to say goodbye to Li Cheng. Li Cheng left in a straightforward manner. Cultivators did not have so many complicated and trivial formalities and were wishy-washy. After saying that, he got up directly, summoned his iron-winged eagle, and left. In a short while, he disappeared from the sight of Yang Chun and the 2 women. Yang Chun was also not the kind of person who liked to be sad about parting. Watching Li Cheng's figure disappear, he immediately cheered up and began to think about the next things. The combination magic treasure had been completed, and Li Cheng had also given him the method to use it. In any case, the entrance to the Immortal beheading platform must be refined, otherwise Yang Chun himself would not be able to ascend. Another thing was an unexpected surprise for Yang Chun. He thought that it would take at least another 50 years to lift the outermost blockade formation of the demon continent, so that everyone would be exempted from the pain of having to make a big hard oath. This time, with the help of Li Cheng, this problem was directly solved. The shattering of those blockades was definitely a chain reaction, and he believed that the top 10 sect would soon discover these changes. Fortunately, the impact of this formation on the cultivators was at most the big hard oath, but the greater benefits were for mortals. At least mortals could go to the sea to make a living, instead of being trapped on the shore. Let's go back and talk about it. Yang Chun didn't have time to ask Gao Yu and Gong Sunling what they learned when accompanying Li Cheng to retreat. It was important to rush back to the Chunyang Palace first. Such a big movement here must have attracted the attention of the patrolling disciples of the Chunyang Palace, and they must be instructed. On the way back, Yang Chun heard the whole process of Li Cheng's retreat from Gao Yu and Gong Sunling. From Gao Yu and Gong Sunling's mouths, Yang Chun heard the two women's worship of Li Cheng's refining level. Gao Yu is already one of the few refining masters in the mortal world, but after seeing Li Cheng's techniques and incredible ideas, she couldn't help but admire him. Li Cheng didn't hide anything. Every step he did, he had to explain it to Gao Yu, so that she knew what he was doing. More than 100 super tool spirits could reach the point of crossing their tribulation in just 50 years. In addition to Li Cheng's peerless technique, there was another important reason, which was also the reason that Yang Chun couldn't understand. The massive spiritual liquid left by the Taishaman played a key role. In just 50 years, under Li Cheng's powerful control, those super tool spirits absorbed almost half of the spiritual liquid. If it was calculated according to the spiritual power needed for a single cultivator to cross the tribulation, the spiritual liquid absorbed by the tool spirits was enough for thousands of ordinary cultivators to ascend. Now that it was concentrated in more than 100 tool spirits, it was no wonder that those guys could easily withstand the tribulation that was hundreds of times more powerful. Of course, a lot of spiritual liquid was also consumed in the refining process. Originally, these needed to consume the original spiritual liquid that Yang Chun collected with great effort. Fortunately, there was the stock of the Taishaman, so that Yang Chun's collection could be preserved. More than 100 super magic weapons were completely changed at once. Even if Yang Chun had put on the armor, he couldn't see any of the original magic weapons. Now, even if Yang Chun swaggered in the armor and appeared in front of the people of the Taishaman Shintian sect, he didn't have to worry about being seen through by them. The set of tools in Gao Yu's hands was also reforged by Li Cheng, making it more exquisite and easier to use. This move alone made Gao Yu admire him very much. Gao Yu had to use that set of tools to refine other people's magic weapons without being contaminated with her own aura. Li Cheng, on the other hand, could refine them casually, but he never had such trouble. He was a master among masters. Chapter 1487. Naturally, after Li Cheng's guidance for decades, Gao Yu's refining level had advanced by leaps and bounds. If Gao Yu could only be regarded as in the top 200 of the mortal world's refining masters, now she could break into the top 10. Not only that, Gao Yu's Emperor Qi seemed to be strongly enhanced and condensed around Li Cheng. The effect of 50 years of cultivation was even comparable to Gao Yu's 100 years of cultivation. Gao Yu's spirit power cultivation base at this time has easily entered the level of the late Deshang stage. Husband, this is what Big Brother Li Cheng left for you. After Gao Yu told Yang Chun about her harvest, Gong Sunling immediately gave Yang Chun 3 familiar magic weapons. What is this? Yang Chun was stunned. There was something that Li Cheng wouldn't give in person. Did he still need Gong Sunling to hand it over? These are the 3 medicine gardens that Big Brother Li Cheng found when he subdued those magic weapons. Gong Sunling explained with a smile, the tool spirit inside has been refined into the armor by Big Brother Li. The medicinal materials in the 3 medicine gardens have been taken by Big Brother Li, and the rest will be given to you. Yang Chun suddenly realized that Li Cheng was afraid that he would forget it, so he gave it to Gong Sunling in advance. Looking at these 3 medicine gardens, Yang Chun also remembered his own bottle medicine garden. Zhu and Abai were trying their best to refine and integrate the dragon gourd, and now it was almost halfway through. At this rate, it would take at least 50 years to fully absorb and integrate. It must be said that the power of the dragon race's magic weapon was rare in the world. Both Zhu and Abai were tool spirits who have passed the wind tribulation. The two teamed up to refine a dragon gourd, and it took more than 100 years. In the 3 medicine gardens, it was also filled with countless medicinal materials that made Yang Chun salivate. Taishaman's accumulation of hundreds of thousands of years. Almost all the medicinal materials were concentrated in these 3 medicine gardens. Even if Big Brother Li Cheng took half of it, the remaining half was enough to make a super rich person like Yang Chun feel excited, as if he had won the lottery. These 3 medicine gardens were easy to deal with. After Zhu and Abai merged the purified bottle medicine garden with the dragon gourd, They would absorb the space of the three medicine gardens. There was no difficulty except that it took a little time. In any case, Yang Chun had to spend a lot of time refining the entrance to the Immortal slaying platform, so he wasn't afraid that he wouldn't have time to wait. Gong Sunling's harvest was relatively small. She was mainly responsible for logistics for Li Cheng and Gao Yu. Although it was not a big problem for the two masters of the Deshang stage to completely avoid food for 50 years, it was clear that Li Cheng was the same hedonist as Yang Chun. Even though he was working nonstop, he still had to take time out every day to enjoy the fine wine and delicacies that Gong Sunling had meticulously prepared. The refining techniques that Li Cheng pointed out to Gao Yu, Gong Sunling was usually not interested in them. Her research direction was in the field of formations, and Li Cheng also knew this. However, for Gong Sunling's guidance, Li Cheng did not give her much advice on the formation, but taught her a new sacrificial refining technique, which Gong Sunling used to sacrificial refine the Mountain River geographical map. Now Gong Sunling was no longer afraid of adding more masters to the Mountain River geographical map. With Professor Li Cheng's technique, Gong Sunling could easily distinguish the spiritual power in the Mountain River geographical map, and then use it separately, and there would be no more problems like the previous spiritual power was not pure enough. Both women had gains. Of course, the one who gained the most was Yang Chun. This super magic weapon was worth hundreds of pieces. In this regard, Yang Chun had already made a decision. As soon as he refined the entrance to the Immortal Executioner stage, he would give the armor to Gao Yu. Gao Yu still lacked a body protection magic weapon, and this armor was just right. The first thing Yang Chun did when he returned to the Pure Yang Side Palace was to summon the elders on duty in the Pure Yang Side Palace, and instructed them to inform the top 10 sect that the blockade formation on the periphery of the Demon Continent had been broken so that they could make early adjustments. Then he took Gao Yu and Gong Sunling to retreat again. There were two main purposes of this retreat. One was to master the method of controlling the spirit and let the tool spirits start to help refine the entrance to the Immortal Executioner stage. The second was to absorb and integrate the white fire seed according to Professor Li Cheng's method. The first goal was very simple. Under the spiritual awareness of Yang Chen's Earth Immortal Second Grade, more than 100 super tool spirits were easily controlled by Yang Chun. Then, according to the records on the jade slip left by Li Cheng, he controlled these super tool spirits to arrange 4 virtual arrays, which were located in the east, south, west, and north directions of the entrance to the Immortal Executioner stage, and began to refine. At this time, the spiritual liquid left by the Taishaman played a key role. Refining the super magic weapon, Li Cheng consumed half of it, and the remaining half was used by Yang Chun to refine the entrance to the Immortal Executioner stage. To complete the refining of the entrance to the Immortal Executioner stage, the spiritual power required was absolutely an unimaginable and jaw-dropping number. When necessary, Yang Chen's spiritual liquid would also be used, not at all. After the super tool spirits began to work, Yang Chun temporarily shifted his attention. It would be a long process, and he would not pay attention to it for a while. The absorption and integration of the white flame was also a difficult and laborious thing, and it was related to the refining of the longevity pill. It could not be sloppy. At first, it was natural to absorb the white flame into the profound spirit furnace. Even with Li Cheng's previous reminder, coupled with the dragon spirit's control of the flame, and Yang Chen's ability to control the fire, this simple process still took Yang Chun almost 3 years. This time alone has exceeded the record of the profound spirit furnace's absorption of the fire seed. Even if all the 7th grade fire seeds were added up, it would not take so long. The dragon spirit was even shocked to almost lose control of the profound spirit furnace after carefully touching this kind of flame. The more this was the case, the higher the expectations in Yang Chen's heart were. Such a powerful fire seed, after being absorbed by himself, would only have greater benefits for himself. According to the method Li Cheng reminded, Yang Chun began to use the method of controlling the 3rd fire to absorb the white fire seed. This process lasted for 10 years. Next was the 4th fire method, which also took 10 years. At this time, Yang Chun discovered that the white flame did not seem to be a kind of flame at all. What was absorbed with the third fire method was the white third fire, and what was absorbed with the fourth fire method was the white fourth fire. It looked like a white fire seed, and it seemed that it was not just a simple one. No wonder Li Cheng said that it would take 20 or 30 years. The first two steps alone had already consumed 20 years. The remaining step was even more difficult and required two techniques to be used at the same time. Fortunately, Yang Chun has already had the experience of controlling the two fire dragons of the yin-yang heaven-burning fire for hundreds of years at the same time. The control of this step was not as difficult as imagined. The next third step was the process of merging the white third fire and the white fourth fire. Yang Chun meticulously followed Li Cheng's instructions and carried out the final step of refining and absorption. Chapter 1488. Up to now, the process of Yang Chen's absorption of the fire seed was still normal. It was exactly the same as the method of absorbing thousands of times before. There was no change. This process continued until the process of the white fire seed's third absorption was about to be completed, and there was a sudden change. In fact, strictly speaking, the absorption had been completed here. All the fire seeds had been integrated into the yin-yang heaven-burning fire under the control of Yang Chun, but they entered the two yin-yang fire dragons separately, and this time they entered the two fire dragons at the same time. The two fire dragons seemed to be ignited suddenly. Yes, it could indeed be described with the word ignited. The fire dragons, which were originally composed of flames, at this moment, all the flames began to erupt violently. From the feeling of Yang Chun, it was clear that they were ignited by the white flame. Because the yin-yang fire dragon and the yang fire dragon had been integrated with the white flame, at this moment, Yang Chen's yin-yang heaven-burning fire was actually out of Yang Chen's control for a moment and was triggered by the white flame. Fortunately, this situation was only a trivial moment, and then it seemed to return to Yang Chen's side again. At the same time, the white flame of the fusion of the two fire dragons suddenly turned into a white fireball. The huge fireball appeared not far in front of Yang Chen's forehead, burning fiercely. The yin-yang fire dragon and the yang fire dragon quietly emerged from both sides of Yang Chen's body, and then seemed to be attracted by the white fireball, and went straight to the fireball. The two long bodies hit the white fireball, and then suddenly drilled into the fireball. In front of Yang Chun, there was only the huge white fireball, and the two fire dragons had disappeared without a trace. But in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness, the two fire dragons were still flying around vividly, without any change. Through his spiritual awareness, Yang Chun could still clearly feel the existence of the yin-yang fire dragon and the yang fire dragon. They seemed to have entered a magical space, and there was a mysterious force in this space that was tempting them to make a series of changes. The sudden situation did not make Yang Chun panic. The white fire seed was given by Li Cheng, and Yang Chun firmly believed that Li Cheng had no need to use such means to harm him. If he wanted to kill Yang Chun, Li Cheng probably wouldn't need such a method. Therefore, this white flame must have a deeper meaning. At this time, Yang Chun needed to deal with everything calmly. The yin fire dragon and yang fire dragon were changing. At first, Yang Chun was unable to sense the changes, but after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Yang Chun could clearly sense the changes. All the fire seeds, all the fusion of the yin-yang heaven-burning fire that Yang Chun had absorbed before were actually all upgraded. The first grade fire seed was upgraded to the second grade fire seed. The second grade fire seed was upgraded to the third grade fire seed. The sixth grade fire seed was upgraded to the seventh grade fire seed, and the seventh grade fire seed was also undergoing incredible changes. After realizing this, Yang Chun couldn't believe his feelings. But the clear changes in his spiritual awareness and the familiarity of the flame made Yang Chun believe it. The fire seed was actually upgrading spontaneously. How was this possible? In the outside world, there were some unique and accidental circumstances that would only happen. For example, when Master Ancestor Wang Yong was crossing the Yin fire tribulation, he used the Yin fire to quench his own Qilin fire and successfully upgraded the 5th grade Qilin fire to the 6th grade Qilin heavenly fire. This was the only case that Yang Chun had seen with his own eyes. Even when his master Gao used Purple Heart Fire was upgraded to the Purple Heart Profound Fire, it was done by absorbing the Purple Heart Profound Fire, a high-level fire seed. But now Yang Chun could be said to have done nothing. Just because of the white flame, all the fire seeds began to upgrade spontaneously. This kind of thing was really beyond the scope of Yang Chen's cognition. Even with his experience as a great principal golden immortal, he could not imagine that there would be such a magical fire seed that could upgrade all other fire seeds. Generally speaking, if the level of the fire seed could be upgraded, then at least the white fire seed would be at least one level higher than the upgraded fire seed. But now, even the 7th grade fire seed had begun to upgrade. What level was the white fire seed? What kind of fire seed was it? Yang Chen himself could not say. From the performance, the white fire seed seemed to be only a 7th grade fire seed. If Yang Chen only regarded the white fire seed as an ordinary 7th grade fire seed at the beginning, whether he absorbed it as a 3rd fire or a 4th fire, there would be no such magical change now. He couldn't pass Li Cheng's test. This white fire seed was just an ordinary 7th grade fire seed. Although it also belonged to the top fire seed in the mortal world, compared to now, it was definitely like picking sesame seeds and throwing watermelons. Fortunately, Yang Chun learned his lesson and was not so rash and greedy, and waited for Li Cheng's guidance. Now this scene should be Li Cheng's reward for himself. The upgrade of all the fire seeds was by no means a simple matter. Yang Chun needs to carefully control the changes of each kind of fire seed. Although the upgrade itself was not under Yang Chen's control, the process of the upgrade was still under Yang Chen's control. First easy and then difficult, this kind of thing has been done by Yang Chen when he absorbed and integrated the Yin-Yang Heaven-Burning Fire, and the same was true for the upgrade. One by one, he first controlled the lowest level 1st grade fire seed to complete this change, and then the 2nd grade fire seed, and so on. The whole process under the control of Yang Chen happened in an orderly manner, and the Yin-Yang Heaven-Burning Fire was also quietly undergoing earth-shaking changes. Originally, after the Yin-Yang Heaven-Burning Fire absorbed the 7th grade fire seed, it should have already surpassed the 7th grade and may even reach the 8th grade fire seed. But at this moment, Yang Chen did not know what grade of fire seed the Yin-Yang Heaven-Burning Fire was. Of course, the grade of the white fire seed. Yang Chen has become more and more confused. Yang Chen thought that the last step would take up to 10 years to complete, but now it seems that 10 years is far from enough. Even if the time for each kind of fire seed to upgrade was not too long, but so many fire seeds from low to high added up the accumulation time, and it was almost another 10 years. When the pure Yang True Fire, pure Yin True Fire, and Spirit Devouring Dragon Fire were finally promoted again under the influence of the white fire seed, the whole process also reached the final juncture. At the moment of completion, the Yin Fire Dragon and the Yang Fire Dragon spontaneously drilled out of the white fireball. The 2 fire dragons began to fly up and down around the white fireball. No matter how the long dragon body twisted, the 2 dragon heads were always facing the direction of the white fireball. 2 dragons playing with a pearl. These words naturally appeared in Yang Chen's mind. Chapter 1489. The 2 dragons flew up and down around a white flame bead. What was this if not 2 dragons playing with a bead? Even Yang Chen did not expect that there would be such a change. Correspondingly, in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness, there was also a white flame bead. The Yin Fire Dragon and the Yang Fire Dragon were like the outside, flying around the dragon bead, as if there was a fatal attraction on the flame bead. The flame ball, with unparalleled expansion force, directly expanded Yang Chen's sea of consciousness again. The 3 purities' secret art spontaneously began to run, and the cultivation base of the spiritual awareness surged again. From a 2nd grade of the Earth Immortal Realm to the 3rd grade of the Earth Immortal Realm, it stopped at the realm of the 4th grade of the Earth Immortal Realm. The Yang Fire Dragon was originally faint and almost invisible cyan, but at this moment it became completely white. The dark purple of the Yin Fire Dragon, after a change, became pure black. The 2 fire dragons, one black and one white, were unusually eye-catching. Under the stimulation of this change, The third fire and fourth fire spiritual power were like corn grains that had been tossed in a pressure cooker for a long time. As soon as the pattern of two dragons playing with a bead was formed, it immediately began to release pressure and began to expand into popcorn. The two spiritual powers soared in an instant, straight to the fifth grade of the human immortal realm. And even Yang Chen's body became more stressed with this sudden surge of spiritual power. The Great Yin and Yang five-element secret art could almost be said to be linked together. The rise of the fire attribute spiritual power directly led to a sharp rise in other attributes of spiritual power. The peak of the Deshang stage, the first grade of the human immortal realm, the second grade of the human immortal realm, and it stopped at the third grade of the human immortal realm. It was just a few decades of effort, purely speaking of the absorption of a white fire seed. It brought about such a strong overall improvement in the spiritual power realm. Even the knowledgeable Yang Chen could not help but be shocked. Fortunately, Yang Chen's memory had long had the cultivation experience of the fifth grade of a human immortal realm, so there was no accident in this situation. The movement here was so big that it had already alarmed Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, who had been waiting for Yang Chen to finish his retreat. Fortunately, the two women were experienced masters and did not directly rush in. Instead, they first used their divine sense to explore and found that Yang Chen did not have any problems, so they were relieved. "I'm fine." Yang Chen immediately noticed the two women's spiritual consciousness and immediately told the two women not to worry. Later, he resisted the excitement and first cultivated the three purities secret art, Great Yin Yang five-element secret art, and the yellow turban strongman body refining technique to relieve the pressure in the body caused by the surge of spiritual power. Then he slowly got up. "Husband." Gao Yu and Gong Sunling couldn't believe their eyes. With their current knowledge and vision, how could they not see what level Yang Chen's cultivation had reached? However, in just 40 years, he suddenly changed from an ordinary master of the late Deshang stage to a fifth-grade human immortal powerhouse, which was really unacceptable to the two women in a short time. This kind of breakthrough that did not follow common sense. Would it bring any trouble to their husband? "I'm fine." Big brotherly Chang's kind of fire seed is too overbearing. When Yang Chen came out and saw the expressions of the two women, he knew what they were worried about and immediately explained. The two women had seen with their own eyes the process of Li Cheng easily sending more than 100 super tool spirits to cross their tribulation. 4 things with Li Cheng's participation. They would soon be able to accept it. However, they were still a little shocked. In the past, their husband had already performed like an evildoer. They did not expect that their husband's sworn brother was the real evildoer. Well, it was a bit inaccurate to describe him as an evildoer. It should be said that he was an evildoer among evildoers. Although he had just come out, the moment he saw Gao Yu, Yang Chen suddenly had an uncontrollable impulse in his heart. Since the white flame could upgrade all the fire seeds in his own yin-yang heaven-burning fire, then it should not be a big problem to upgrade Gao Yu's Purple Heart Profound Fire to the 7th grade Purple Heart Heavenly Fire, right? A Ling informed Shanshan and Little Shui to come over. Immediately, Yang Chen ordered Gong Sunling. When there was a good thing, he would think of Gao Yu first, but Yang Chen was not so biased. He immediately asked Gong Sunling to call Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base improved a bit too fast, rushing straight to the 4th grade of the Earth Immortal Realm. This kind of improvement speed had already vaguely exceeded Yang Chen's control. He originally thought that there would be no crisis of spiritual awareness splitting in the mortal world, but now it seems that there are faint signs of it, and it must be solved immediately. He called his wives to his side, and everyone cultivated the supreme mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra together, which could not only improve the spiritual awareness cultivation base of his wives, but also alleviate the troubles of Yang Chen, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As for Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters, they were concubines. Before Yang Chen ascended, Yang Chen did not intend to have spiritual awareness double cultivation with them. First, his wives and concubines could not be treated equally. Second, Tao Junkie had already ascended. Since he wanted to treat them equally, he would let Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters join in the spiritual awareness double cultivation with Tao Junkie. A Ling, when Shan Shan and Little Shui arrive, you come in together. Yang Chun left a sentence to Gong Sunling. Regardless of the fact that he had just come out of seclusion, he directly put his hands around Gao Yu's waist and entered the seclusion room again. Gao Yu didn't know what Yang Chun was going to do, but her husband brought her in so overbearingly, Gao Yu did not struggle. After not seeing each other for decades, Yang Chun naturally enjoyed a good time with Gao Yu first, and then held her to start the double cultivation. As soon as she ran the supreme mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra, Gao Yu was shocked. Her husband's spiritual awareness cultivation base had far exceeded her cognitive range and reached a peak she had never seen before. Not to mention that she had never seen it before, she had never even heard of it. When running, Gao Yu only felt that she was like a boat drifting in the wind and waves, and she was almost directly submerged by the stormy waves of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness. Fortunately, with the protection and help of Yang Chun, after getting used to the beginning of the turbulence, it finally began to slowly get on track. Before, Gao Yu's spiritual awareness cultivation base was already at the second grade of the human immortal, but at this moment, under the guidance of Yang Chun, the human immortal third grade, the human immortal fourth grade, the human immortal fifth grade, and finally the human immortal sixth grade barely stopped. Even at this point, Gao Yu could still feel the unattainable feeling of Yang Chun. She thought that she could not completely stabilize her husband's spiritual awareness by herself. Fortunately, she still had 3 sisters to share the pressure. Gao Yu thought so in her heart, but she couldn't help but start to think about whether she should also let Yang Chun take Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters with him. If Yang Chun keeps improving at this speed, the 4 of them may not be able to solve Yang Chun's problems. You, calm down and control your life source fire seed. After finishing, Yang Chun did not let go of Gao Yu and still held Gao Yu tightly in his arms. Do as I say. Chapter 1490. Leaning in Yang Chen's arms, Gao Yu did not have time to experience the feeling of her spiritual awareness skyrocketing and was arranged by Yang Chun to do a new job. For Yang Chen's words, Gao Yu would hardly disobey. Even if Gao Yu was the master of Yang Chun at this moment, how could she put on the airs of a master? Although she did not know what Yang Chun wanted her to release her own life fire seed, Gao Yu believed that Yang Chun would not let her do this for no reason, so she obediently released her purple heart profound fire. No matter what you see next, don't be surprised. Before Yang Chun started, he first comforted Gao Yu and gave her a reassuring pill in advance. Do what I say. Don't be nervous. Gao Yu nodded slightly and leaned her body into Yang Chen's arms. In this way, to tell Yang Chun her attachment to Yang Chun. Under Gao Yu's puzzled eyes, Yang Chen's left hand held Gao Yu's slender waist, his right hand slowly raised, extended his index finger, and slowly pointed to the purple flame in front of Gao Yu. From Gao Yu's point of view, she could not see anything in Yang Chen's hand, and Yang Chun did not want her to see at the moment. What Gao Yu saw was that Yang Chun had stretched out his finger and pointed to his own life fire seed. A heart-palpitating change suddenly began to happen from the place where Yang Chen's finger was pointed and then quickly spread to the entire fire seed. The sudden change made Gao Yu almost lose her mind, and her own life fire seed became several times more violent in an instant, so that Gao Yu could not control it at this moment. Calm down, don't be afraid, slowly accept and absorb it little by little. Yang Chen's voice sounded like a curse, and behind Gao Yu, it gave Gao Yu infinite courage. This feeling was more secure than the shock that Li Cheng brought to Gao Yu. Following Yang Chen's instructions, Gao Yu began to carefully touch the transformed life fire seed. Instinctively, she understood that after being touched by Yang Chun, the Purple Heart Profound Fire was no longer the Purple Heart Profound Fire. Looking at the appearance of the fire seed now, it seemed to have become a higher grade 7 Purple Heart Heavenly Fire. How is this possible? Gao Yu's first reaction was that it was impossible. However, he immediately dispelled this thought. Her husband had never joked about such an important matter, and apart from big brother Li Cheng, only her husband would have such a monstrous performance. Since the fire seed had changed, it must have become stronger, not weaker. This was the purple heart heavenly flame. After confirming this, although Gao Yu was a little surprised, she immediately calmed down. With the support of her husband, what trouble would there be with the purple heart heavenly flame? The last time Yang Chun guided Tao Junkie to absorb the pure, true fire seemed to be still in front of her. It was also a 7th grade fire seed. Since Yang Chun could let Tao Junkie absorb it safely, then Yang Chun would only be more cautious and safer. With this understanding, there was nothing to worry about. Yang Chun actually had the fire seed of the purple heart heavenly flame. However, directly absorbing the fire seed of the purple heart heavenly flame and upgrading her own purple heart profound fire had different effects for Gao Yu. Just appreciating the feeling of upgrading this kind of fire seed could benefit Gao Yu a lot, not to mention upgrading her own fire seed, which was easier to integrate with Gao Yu than directly absorbing it. Basically, this process would save the life-tempering process after absorbing a new fire seed. Although the time left would not be very long, only a few decades. But for Gao Yu, a few decades was enough for her to do more other things. Gao Yu was very happy and excited. She was happy that her husband had once again brought her a surprise, and he was the first one to give it to her, always putting her first. She was excited that her own cultivation base would also be improved enough. She had just improved her spiritual awareness before, and now her spiritual power realm would also be improved. Under the emotional domination of this complete belief in Yang Chun, Gao Yu showed extraordinary self-confidence. In some nodes that might have been a little difficult for her, Gao Yu's performance was remarkable and almost perfect. It was slightly different from Tao Junkie's absorption of the pure true fire in the past. At that time, Tao Junkie's life fire seed and the pure true fire were not completely of the same origin, so it was difficult to absorb it. In addition, Tao Junkie's degree of trust in Yang Chun was far less than that of Gao Yu. So Tao Junkie still let Yang Chun use the merit chapter several times to support herself and successfully absorb the pure true fire. Now Gao Yu's performance was perfect, and her cooperation with Yang Chun was like a person. In addition, it was to improve her own life fire seed. Under the combination of several factors, Gao Yu did not even let Yang Chun use the merit chapter to protect his body, and successfully upgraded her own purple heart profound fire to the 7th grade purple heart heavenly fire. The process of improvement was only a few months, but Gao Yu's spiritual power cultivation base had leaped 1,000 miles. The absorption of the 7th grade fire seed allowed Yang Chen's full attribute spiritual power to improve a small realm. Not to mention Gao Yu's water and fire dual spirit power. When the purple heart heavenly fire was successfully upgraded, Gao Yu's cultivation base broke through the middle Deshang stage, the late Deshang stage, the peak Deshang stage, the 1st grade of the human immortal, and directly entered the realm of the 2nd grade of the human immortal. When Yang Chun and Gao Yu lingered again, they both came out of the quiet room and saw Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingxue smiling. Big sister and husband eat alone. Don't say wait for little sister. Sun Qingxue's cultivation base was now improved, and her mood was also very different. She dared to tease Gao Yu. She opened her mouth and teased, directly making Gao Yu blush. Husband. Shi Shanshan still had a cold face, although in front of Gong Sunling and Sun Qingxue, there was no expression of rejection, but it only eased a little. Only when she saw Yang Chun would she show a sincere smile. Husband has been in retreat recently. I have neglected you. Yang Chun first apologized to his wives, and then in the laughter of the women, he hugged the 4 women and began to retreat again. The duration of this closed-door cultivation was relatively short. It was only half a year. During this period, Yang Chun basically did nothing else, except to enjoy the pleasure of fish and water with his wives and double cultivation. He did nothing else. Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Shi Shanshan were also shocked. One by one, their spiritual awareness cultivation base was raised to the realm of the 6th grade of the human immortal. Unfortunately, the 3 women did not have the opportunity of the 7th grade fire seed like Gao Yu, and their spiritual power cultivation base still stayed in the original Middle Deshang stage. With the qualifications of the three women, as long as they cultivate step by step in the following time, it would only take 200 or 300 years to reach the edge of the tribulation. There was no need to worry at all. Chapter 1491. In half a year, Yang Qin's body finally adapted to the 5th grade human immortal cultivation base and no longer felt that huge pressure. Fortunately, Yang Qin's retreat has been the demon sealing formation of the pure Yang side palace all these years. Otherwise, the heavenly tribulation would have come long ago. Before and after calculating, Yang Chun had been able to refine the longevity pill for almost 100 years. The first 20 years were used to absorb the 6th grade fire seeds. The 3 7th grade fire seeds each took 15 years, and finally the white flame took 40 years to absorb, which was exactly the time promised to the master who was injured at that time. Ayo Ling Shan Shan, Lil Shue, you go to the demon sealing formation in the core area and hunt those beasts. My husband also needs some devilish beads to refine pills. To refine the longevity pill, Yang Chun, of course, couldn't directly take out the devilish bead above the 5th grade human immortal. Naturally, he also needed a reasonable reason. Don't hold back. The ultimate goal is that the 4 of you join forces to kill the 2nd grade Earth immortal super beast. Over the years, far more than one person has been guessing how Yang Chun would finally deal with the earthly immortal level magical beast in the core demon sealing formation. How many great masters could only fight against the human immortal level demonic beasts at present? The earthly immortal level, they didn't even think about it. The 4 women also had such a guess, but they all knew how monstrous their husband was, so they just guessed, but they didn't worry about it. Now hearing that Yang Chun actually wanted the 4 of them to join forces to kill the earthly immortal level demonic beast, and even the grade was stated clearly, the 4 women couldn't help but be surprised and happy. The surprise was that Yang Chun would not do it himself, but let them do it. This made the 4 women who were not mentally prepared a little surprised, but they were more happy in their hearts. When Yang Chun first came to the demon continent, he went to the core area, which the 4 women knew. However, at that time, Yang Chun could be said to be scared step by step, and he would almost die. Now that Yang Chun had asked the 4 of them to work together to deal with the beasts, it meant that Yang Chun had absolute confidence in them. They would definitely be able to kill the earthly immortal beasts. When he thought about how the 4 of them could actually join forces to fight against the 2nd grade earth immortal beast, even if the beast only relied on its instincts to fight and didn't have much skill, it was still a 2nd grade earth immortal. Just thinking about it made one's blood boil. In the past few years, those beasts below the 5th stage of the human immortal stage had already been slaughtered by the various sect, and the demonic beads had been harvested in the thousands. Although each of these baleful devil beads was a transcendent grade baleful devil bead, it was not very useful for Yang Chun to refine the prolonging life pill. Yang Chun had said that he wanted a human immortal stage 5 and above. Currently, each sect only had a few supreme experts who could hunt down beasts that were grade 5 human immortal and above. Moreover, he could only deal with one at a time, and it would take a long time. It could be said that it could take a few months to kill a human immortal grade 6 grade beast. It was already very fast. On the side of Chunyang Palace, fortunately, there was Ho Yun, the peak Mayana stage cultivation, plus the realm of the yellow turban strongman body, refining arcane power. He could barely join forces with the old tree demon and compete with a human immortal grade 6 grade beast. Over the course of a few decades, he had barely managed to kill a dozen of them. Others such as Shi Kuei and Xie Sha, plus the new palace master and others, could only watch the battle from a distance and could not come forward at all. If Yang Chun wanted a baleful devil bead above the human immortal grade 5th grade, as long as he said it, it was not known how many people would take the initiative to send it. Even the Chunyang Palace had more than a dozen. But Yang Chun still wanted his wives to do it. This time, it was not to let them hone, but to let them clean up the core area. After such a long time of absorption, the demonic energy on the demon continent had basically been absorbed. Even in the core area, there were only 200 or 300 miles left. If they continued to absorb, those beasts would kill each other. Of course, Yangchen wouldn't let this happen. How wasteful would it be for the beasts to kill each other? With the four women working together, Yangchen was still very relieved. Not to mention anything else, their protection was absolutely excellent. Sun Qingxue had the Xuanwu shield, and Gong Sunling had the Mountain River geographical map. With these two combined, basically no opponent could hurt them. In addition, once the Emperor's aura was released, even if it was the core beast of the second grade Earth Immortal, it would be suppressed to the human immortal level, dropping a realm. In the past, Gao Yu's cultivation was low. Even if she had the Emperor's aura, it might not be effective against an opponent of the Earth Immortal level. Now that she had absorbed the Purple Heart Heavenly Fire, her cultivation was close to the second grade Earth Immortal, and she was already a standard Supreme Master. The Emperor's aura could definitely affect the Earth Immortal level beasts. In addition, Shi Shanshan's Supreme Pure Yang Sword Qi, after so many years of absorption, condensed into a full attack. Even if it was the Earth Immortal level beasts, they might not be able to take a few of them. Coupled with the tacit understanding of the four women, it should not be a problem to clean up the core area. The four women didn't stay long, and soon went straight to the core Demon Seal formation. Gao Yu's cultivation base has reached the Supreme level, and Yang Chun naturally taught some of the Supreme level masters the method to forcibly suppress their cultivation base. Anyway, they were just on the road. On the Demon Continent, no one dared to blatantly attack the four women. Even if there were some who didn't have eyes, the three women could easily deal with them. It wasn't until this moment that Yang Chun finally had time to pay attention to the situation of the Chunyang Side Palace. However, it could be seen from Yang Chen's retreat that no one had disturbed him, that everything was very normal. The fact was also as Yang Chen expected. Chunyang Palace had been more and more prosperous over the years, and there had been no other difficulties. The head of the palace and several other core executives had rotated with Wang Yong, Gao Shirin, and Meng Xian decades ago and rushed to the Demon Continent to gain experience. They caught up with the last wave of beasts that could be hunted, but the harvest was not bad. During this time, the masters of the Deshang stage of Chunyang Palace were basically all concentrated in the core Demon Seal formation, watching the battle from a distance, learning the experience of Ho Yun and the Old Tree Demon fighting against the 6 human immortal species beasts. The territory of the Chunyang Palace has always been ahead of other sects, and the population has expanded to tens of millions within 100 years. With sufficient resources, sufficient land, and sufficient food, the mortals have wantonly given birth, and it has been passed on for 5 generations. Just in the territory of the Chunyang Palace alone, there have been more than 100,000 new disciples with good qualifications recruited over the years. Given time, it was not entirely impossible for Chunyang Palace to catch up with other super sects. Spread the news, saying that I have come out of seclusion and plan to refine the longevity pill. In the face of the congratulations of the elders on duty, Yang Chun encouraged them and instructed them with the seniority of his martial uncle and the identity of the young palace master. Chapter 1492. Yang Chun was going to refine the longevity pill, and many people have been looking forward to it as early as 100 years ago. However, Yang Chun said that it was beyond his power at that time, and no one could help him with this reason, so they could only wait patiently. After waiting for more than 100 years, they finally waited for the news that Yang Chun was going to start alchemy. The sect that got the news almost immediately sent representatives to set foot on the road straight to the pure Yang Side Palace. Although Yang Chun had been in retreat over the years, the surprises he brought to the major sect were one after another. Not to mention anything else, just the silent solution to the blockade formation on the periphery of the Demon Continent made the masters of the major sect stunned when they heard the news. How big the blockade formation was, how wide its scope was, and how strong it was, basically all the masters who knew the follow-up plan knew it in their hearts. There were even quite a number of people who had deliberately tried to see if they could rely on themselves or the strength of their own sects to break the formation. Until Yang Chun broke the formation, no one had succeeded. Yang Chun was so quiet that he completely broke the formation. How could it not be shocking? The only thing that could make people feel better in their hearts was that everyone thought that Yang Chun just found a way to crack it in the Zhao family manner. No one would think that Yang Chun broke it by his own strength. Although Yang Chun never admitted it, everyone thought so, and they could always balance their hearts. Otherwise, Yang Chun's performance would be too heaven-defying. This time, the people who came were basically the ones who could make decisions in the sect. Based on previous cooperation, the plan of many sects was to first verify the authenticity of a life-prolonging pill, and then they should consider what kind of price it would cost to buy the life-prolonging pill from Yang Chun. From a questioning inner heart pill, to the inner sensing pill, to the 100-year pill, Yang Chun had never refused people to buy the pill recipe, but they had to pay a high price. On this point, Yang Chun was trustworthy. What everyone wanted to know the most was whether Yang Chun could actually refine a truly useful prolonging life pill. Relatively speaking, in addition to the two Dao sects, Yin Yang Demon School was the closest to the pure Yang side palace. This time, the distribution of forces on the demon continent was not clearly divided according to Taoist, demon, and demon, but mixed together. Therefore, the representatives of Yin Yang Demon School could be said to be the first batch of people to arrive at Qinyang Side Palace. Yang Chun was definitely too lazy to explain one thing again and again. The first thing to come was naturally the sect's reception according to the rules, and then wait for everyone to arrive. The representatives who came did not ask to see Yang Chun. After all, Yang Chun just said that he was going to start the alchemy, and it had not been completed yet. Everyone was just waiting for the news. While the representatives of other major sects were still on their way, in Yang Chen's Dragon Palace, there was already a charming woman. It was the head of Yin Yang Demon School in the Demon Continent, Lady Fanghua. At this time, Lady Fanghua was already limp and curled up in Yang Chen's arms. Her slender and smooth body was entangled in Yang Chen's body like a snake. Her face was still full of amorous feelings, and her closed eyes did not open for a long time. After not seeing each other for more than 200 years, Lady Fanghua's yearning for Yang Chun had already turned into a full of affection. She wished she could incarnate into a spider web and firmly net Yang Chun by her side. When her body saw her lover for a long time, how could she maintain her calm? She melted directly in Yang Chen's fiery chest. Yang Chen's yellow-turbaned strongman body refining technique had advanced again. Even if there was no improvement in her cultivation base, Lady Fanghua was not Yang Chen's opponent. What's more, Yang Chen's cultivation base had already been promoted from the middle Dashang stage to the third-grade human immortal realm. In the first round, Lady Fanghua fainted in extreme happiness and has not woken up until now. For Lady Fanghua, Yang Chun had no love, but Lady Fanghua's heart and her body had been completely given to Yang Chun. Yang Chun was not the kind of person who abandoned Lady Fanghua, so he acquiesced in the existence of Lady Fanghua. Fortunately, Lady Fanghua never made trouble for Yang Chun in the affairs between men and women. Until now, they were in harmony and they could use each other to satisfy each other. Yang Chun had a loyal maid from the demon sect who would never betray him, and Lady Fanghua got a little concern from her lover's heart. She could also get huge benefits when solving the problems of her lover's cultivation. The two sides complemented each other. After Lady Fanghua woke up and recovered, Yang Chun and Lady Fanghua began the real double cultivation again. It was said to be a double cultivation, but in fact, it was mainly Lady Fanghua using the method of absorbing Yang Chen's spiritual power. On the one hand, it purified and condensed the spiritual power for Yang Chun. On the other hand, her own cultivation base was also greatly improved. It was not until she really began to absorb Yang Chen's spiritual power that Lady Fanghua realized how terrifying Yang Chen's cultivation base was this time. Even if Lady Fanghua was already a master of the late Dashang stage, she was still almost injured by the surging spiritual power that was sucked in. If it weren't for Yang Chun, who saw that the situation was not good, Lady Fanghua would have been seriously injured. Lady Fanghua spent more than a month just to digest Yang Chen's spiritual power, and it was barely crossed off. However, Yang Chen's own cultivation base did not decrease much, and it still remained above the realm of the third-grade human immortal. In just 1 month, Lady Fanghua directly broke through the bottleneck from the late Deshang stage and entered the peak Deshang stage. This kind of cultivation speed, even if the demon sex focused on rapid progress, seemed a bit too shocking. Even Lin Changhe, who had almost tens of thousands of people in the world to provide him with spiritual power, took a long time to cultivate from the qi refining stage to the early Deshang stage. Compared with the current improvement of Lady Fanghua's cultivation base, it was simply not known how many times worse. Master, this slave is so happy. Lady Fanghua was now next to Yang Chen in her most charming posture, in her slender hand repealing a great pick from a vine that had grown for thousands of years, and she reached out to feed it to Yang Chen, who was lying on her thigh. Her face was as cheerful as a girl immersed in her first love. "I've had a good rest?" Yang Chen closed his eyes and drank a glass of Yin Yang Demon School's special wine from Lady Fanghua's mouth and asked softly, "Master, your cultivation base is rising too fast. This slave may not be able to bear it alone." Even with the cultivation base of Lady Fanghua, after experiencing the previous harvest, there were some lingering fears. She didn't understand how her beloved's cultivation base could rise so fast. Although it also brought great benefits to her, she didn't want to taste the feeling of fainting after absorbing the spiritual power in a short period of time. Chapter 1493. Could it be that the spirit art of myriad brilliance can't be cultivated to the grand supreme level? Yang Chen couldn't help but ask when he heard the hidden meaning in Lady Fanghua's words. However, when he asked the question, his body was still lying on the soft couch with his head resting on Lady Fanghua's supple thigh. He was still enjoying her smooth skin. "That's not it." Lady Fanghua shook her head quickly. She didn't want Yang Chen to misunderstand her because of such a small matter. Yang Chen didn't move his body. He only opened his mouth, and Lady Fanghua quickly and attentively placed a grape that had been peeled with care into Yang Chen's mouth. "Master, this slave has done something behind your back." After thinking about it for a while, Madame Fanghua deliberated over the wording and said carefully. As she spoke, she looked at Yang Chen's expression. Fortunately, Yang Chen's expression didn't change at all. He didn't seem to blame Lady Fanghua at all. He closed his eyes and said, "You don't have to hide anything about your sex matters. I won't care." "Master, this has something to do with you." Lady Fanghua didn't look like the mighty great elder of Yin Yang Demon School anymore. She was clearly a timid woman who was afraid that her lover would be angry. "It has something to do with me?" Yang Chen was stunned. He opened his eyes and glanced at Lady Fanghua. Then, he closed his eyes again and asked with a smile, "Why? Do you plan to find a few more opportunities to kill me? Spirit art of myriad brilliance has a breakthrough again? Bring it on." After having intimate contact with Lady Fanghua for so many years, Yang Chen didn't mind a little more in the bedroom. Moreover, Lady Fanghua, who came from the demon sect, brought Yang Chen more enjoyment in this aspect than his wives and concubines who came from the Dao sect. "Your servant hid it from you and found 30 maids for you." Lady Fanghua saw that Yang Chen didn't seem to be angry at all, so she said carefully, "After I gave myself to you for the first time, I searched the world and found 30 beautiful women. I secretly accepted them as disciples. All these years, they have all cultivated the spirit art of 1,000 colors. With the items and pills that Master has given them, they have all cultivated to the realm that I was at back then." Lady Fanghua peeked at Yang Chen's expression. Seeing that Yang Chen's expression didn't change much, she continued, "They are all virgins now. I have trained them for many years and are waiting for Master's favor." Sigh. Yang Chen let out a long sigh, which made Lady Fanghua's heart tighten, as if there was a band-tightening spell binding her tightly. Her absolute concern for Yang Chen made it impossible for her to tolerate any dissatisfaction from Yang Chen. Her face was instantly filled with fear. "Fanghua." Yang Chen didn't raise his head and get up, but he also knew Lady Fanghua's expression at this moment. After calling Lady Fanghua's maiden name, he couldn't help but ask, "In your heart, am I a lecher?" "Master, your servant deserves to die." Yang Chen didn't move, and Lady Fanghua didn't dare to kneel down, for fear that her movement would make Yang Chun uncomfortable. However, her face was already so anxious that she almost shed tears. She hurriedly explained, "Your servant didn't mean that. Your servant just thought that master should have a few servants around him so that master won't have to work hard. Why do cultivators need to enjoy so much?" Yang Chen couldn't help but let out a bitter smile. This Lady Fanghua really needs to be disciplined. She actually came up with such a bad idea. "Master, you have many wives and concubines. Are you going to do everything yourself in the future, or let the madams and concubines do it?" Seeing that Yang Chun had a smile on his face, Lady Fanghua immediately said before Yang Chun got angry, "I heard that Fairy Junkie has already prepared a mansion for Master in the spiritual realm. You will definitely need some servants in the future. Do you still want to find a bunch of stinky men to serve the madams and concubines? Besides what?" Listening to Lady Fanghua's reason, Yang Chun didn't refute it for a while. However, Lady Fanghua obviously had something else to say, so Yang Chun couldn't help but ask curiously, "Please forgive your servant for being presumptuous." The fear in Lady Fanghua's heart finally disappeared a little, but she was still a little uneasy. She slowly said, "Master is scheming against the Taishaman in the mortal world. I don't think he will give up just like that. Even if he goes to the spiritual realm and the immortal realm to deal with the Xiantian sect, Master will still need some helpers." Besides Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, the other person who knew about Yang Chen's plan to deal with the Taishaman was Lady Fanghua. There were many things that Lady Fanghua came forward. Even if it was not Lady Fanghua who came forward at the beginning, Lady Fanghua still played the most important role in adding fuel to the fire. From this point of view, Yang Chen's trust in Lady Fanghua even exceeded his trust in Shi Shanshan, Sun Qingxue, and his concubines. Of course, on the one hand, it was also related to their origin in the Dao sect. Unlike Lady Fanghua, who had a natural dislike for Taishaman, she would not have any pressure to deal with the Taishaman. On the other hand, it was because of the 1,000 Colors spiritual method, because she was committed to Yang Chun, Lady Fanghua, who cultivated the 1,000 Colors spiritual method, could not kill Yang Chun. Her heart could only be tied to Yang Chun, and it would not change in this life. This kind of trust even surpassed the trust of the women who belonged to the same Dao sect. Lady Fanghua could guess that he would also deal with the Xiantian sect in the future from his actions in dealing with the Taishaman. It was not very wise, but she could use the reason that Yang Chun needed helpers to prepare the 30 beautiful maids for him as a reason for Yang Chun to accept them. Speaking of which, it could be said that she had put in a lot of effort. To deal with the Xiantian sect, it would not be good to use the secret means to deal with the Taishaman in the future. In the future, they would definitely have to fight. At that time, the number of experts on his side would also mean the success or failure of his revenge. 30 experts who had enough weight and were absolutely loyal and would never betray him also had a great attraction. Of course, this was certainly not the only purpose of Lady Fanghua. Her most fundamental purpose was to rely on these beautiful maids to be favored. However, she was relatively smart in doing so, which always made Yang Chun feel less pressured. This servant also knows that this servant can't always be by Master's side. While Yang Chun was thinking, Lady Fanghua had already opened her mouth again and said faintly, "These women were all secretly accepted by this servant, and outsiders never know. I only hope that Master will accept them and let them serve Master on behalf of this servant. In the future, when Master sees them, just treat it as seeing this servant. As long as this servant has a place in Master's heart, this servant will be satisfied." Hearing Lady Fanghua cry like this, Yang Chen clearly knew what Lady Fanghua was thinking, but he was still a little tempted. Chapter 1494. Yang Chun had a lot of friends, and there would be a lot of subordinates in Chunyang Palace in the future. However, when he really had to face the profound heaven sect, Yang Chun did not want these friends around him to be implicated by him. With 30 absolutely loyal maids, some things were much easier to do. In particular, these maids have not yet exposed their identities. Even if they cultivated the brilliant spirit method, Yang Chun still had a way to let them practice some other cultivation methods on the basis of this cultivation method, which would also be useful in the future. However, he had to let Yang Chun take their virginity to control them. Yang Chun had a lot of hesitation. This method was really a bit contrary to Yang Chen's heart. Master, in fact, when this slave trained them, I've already let them regard Master as the sky for life. Lady Fanghua was already prepared. How could she let Yang Chun give up easily? And immediately said, in this life, they will only serve Master. If Master is not willing, this slave will clean them up. The cleaning in Lady Fanghua's mouth was easy to say, but Yang Chun understood that as long as he refused these maids, their fate would definitely be death. Lady Fanghua was not a good man or woman. It was just 30 beautiful women. Since they could not play any role in her favor, she would not put in the effort to cultivate them. The fate of those women could be imagined. This slave is alone. I really can't bear the gift of Master. Lady Fanghua leaned down and put a grape into Yang Chen's mouth. After that, she said with some embarrassment, if the Master's current situation is known to outsiders, I am afraid it will be troublesome again. It must be said that Lady Fanghua had grasped the key point this time. In a short period of 100 years, Yang Chun directly jumped from the middle Deshang stage to the 3rd grade of human immortal, and the fire attribute spirit power even went straight to the 5th grade of human immortal. This kind of cultivation speed, not to mention Lin Changhe in the great calamity of the demonic cultivation, even 10 Lin Changhe could not compare to Yang Chun. The growth of cultivation was not a big deal, but if Yang Chen's rapid growth could not give a convincing reason, perhaps Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace would be in big trouble again. Not to mention other things, just a large group of people from other sects came to ask Yang Chun for the way to increase his cultivation. Yang Chun did not know how to deal with it. Was it possible to tell everyone that he was madly absorbing the fire seeds? And one of the fire seeds also turned the yin-yang heaven-burning fire into 2 dragons playing with a pearl? The people around him, Gao Yugong Sumling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingxue had nothing to do with it, and now Lady Fanghua also knew about it, so it didn't matter. But if there were really other outsiders who knew about it, Yang Chun did not want to be so troublesome. The reason why the elder on duty informed the other sect that he was going to refine pills was actually a small signal to let Lady Fanghua come. Originally, Yang Chun thought that Lady Fanghua could solve the problem by herself. Now it seemed that even if Lady Fanghua tried her best, she could not support this much spirit power alone. Yang Chen's great Yin and Yang 5-element spirit power was not something that could be casually born. Thinking of this, Yang Chen's heart suddenly trembled. Some things, in fact, there was only one solution. There was no need to consider so many troubles. It was not Yang Chen's consistent characteristics to be indecisive. If he wanted it, then he wanted it. If he didn't want it, then he didn't want it. There was no need to be so hesitant. With this decision, Yang Chen's mood was relaxed, and it seemed that something had broken free. The whole person immediately became refreshed. Well, Fanghua, I will accept your kindness. Yang Chun smiled and gave Lady Fanghua a positive answer. In the future, in my Yang family, you will be the chief steward of the inner residence. Lady Fanghua screamed and bowed her head to hug Yang Chun and kissed him fiercely. She was very happy. Yang Chun did not despise her origin and accepted her gift, which made her extremely happy. Even if she was asked to die for Yang Chun, Lady Fanghua would not hesitate. Yang Chun slowly sat up. Lady Fanghua hurriedly helped Yang Chun to sit up and then leaned on Yang Chen's body and curled up in Yang Chen's arms, which was the most comfortable posture. You are not by my side. There are some things that I still have to pay attention to, especially safety. Yang Chun hugged Lady Fanghua and slowly exhorted. Suddenly, something appeared in his hand, but it was a beautiful golden crown. In Yang Chen's hand, it suddenly turned into a very beautiful women's hair tie. Sending the hair tie to Lady Fanghua, Yang Chun said, this body protection magic weapon, after the sacrificial refining of you, can block the attack of the 5th stage of the human immortal. You should refine it diligently and use it to protect yourself. The golden crown that could change shape, this was the magic weapon that was obtained after killing the Taishaman sect leader. At that time, Sect leader Li relied on this golden crown to be able to block the attack of the sky-shaking thunder safely. Now he gave it to Lady Fanghua, which was also a small reward for her. Lady Fanghua was really overjoyed, and her eyes were a little red, especially when Yang Chen said that this was sacrificially refined by Gao Yu. It seemed that the first madam had already vaguely accepted her. How could it not make Lady Fanghua overjoyed? Who in this world didn't know Gao Yu's refining level? Needless to say, it was a good thing, especially when Yang Chen also said that it could block the attack of the 5th stage of the human immortal. It was simply a peerless product. Master, you fasten it for this slave. Lady Fanghua straightened up and put up her hair with her hand. With a coquettish tone, she asked Yang Chen to help. Yang Chen did not refuse and reached out to help Lady Fanghua fasten it. Just such a small intimacy. Lady Fanghua was about to explode with joy. There was already a layer of light in her eyes. She stared at Yang Chen with such a watery and translucent look, which was indescribably charming. It seems that there's still something missing. Yang Chen looked around at Lady Fanghua, who had fastened the belt. Sure enough, there was a different kind of beauty. Since he had already given her this belt, Yang Chen simply gave the Buddha to the West. There was one more thing in his hand, which was a beautiful and unusual hairpin. This hairpin was also sacrificially refined by a Yu. He didn't put too much effort into it. In the future, it can barely enhance your spiritual awareness by 50%. Yang Chen looked at the angle and inserted the hairpin into the head of Lady Fanghua, who was sitting upright and waiting for Yang Chen to start. After inserting it, it was really a lot more perfect. Casually taking out a mirror for Lady Fanghua to admire, Yang Chen did not forget to introduce the full effect of the hairpin. Now your spiritual awareness is only at the 1st stage of the human immortal. This hairpin can help you improve to about the 8th stage of the human immortal. However, after your cultivation base improves in the future, the effect will not be so significant. At most, it will increase by 5 points. Lady Fanghua couldn't bear it anymore and began to experiment directly. In an instant, the entire space seemed to be covered by Lady Fanghua's spiritual awareness, and the huge pressure spread out like a substance. Chapter 1495. With the 2 magic weapons, Lady Fanghua was already dead set on Yang Chen, and it was obvious that she could not wait to die for Yang Chen immediately. In particular, these 2 things could change shape, and they had the effect of protection and enhancement of spiritual awareness. For a woman like Lady Fanghua who loved beauty, it was simply a divine weapon. The hairpin was also obtained from Sect Master Li, and it had also been changed. Gao Yu's technique had been guided by Li Cheng almost step by step. Even if the master who refined these 2 things at that time held them in his hands, he could not be sure that this was the magic weapon that he had refined at that time. The female guard was pleased with herself. Now, whereas Yang Chen just a simple pleased with himself. For Lady Fanghua, Yang Chen was her heaven, her earth, and her everything. Lady Fanghua hated that she could not immediately crush herself and merge with Yang Chen. Naturally, a lingering intimacy was inevitable. This time, Lady Fanghua once again absorbed Yang Chen's spiritual power. Another month later, Lady Fanghua's cultivation base directly jumped from the Peak de Shang stage and entered the realm of the 2nd grade human immortal. Yang Chen's cultivation base still stayed on the edge of the 3rd grade human immortal, only a little bit lower. If he wanted to cover up his cultivation base in a short time, it was already impossible to rely on Madame Fanghua alone. Under the nod of Yang Chen, Lady Fanghua finally released the 30 well-prepared maids. The slaves pay respect to the master. 30 beautiful women of all shapes and sizes bowed down in front of Yang Chen. It was simply the most beautiful scenery. Even with Yang Chen's extensive knowledge, he had to admit that in searching for beautiful women, Lady Fanghua's vision was indeed superb. Every one of them was almost at the same level as his 4 wives who had not practiced the beauty-retaining cultivation method. Especially after these women refined the brilliant 1,000 red spirit method, they were even more slim, beautiful, and charming, which was indescribably fascinating. Lady Fanghua's level of training was also very good. In just 300 or 400 years, these 30 women, who were cultivated from the beginning according to Lady Fanghua, had all reached the late Yuanying stage. It happened to be the same realm as when Yang Chun first met Lady Fanghua. This also fully showed that the cultivation aptitude of these women was also excellent. It was difficult for Madame Fanghua to find so many women with different attributes. There were 6 of each of the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, which was very average. Obviously, in this regard, Madame Fanghua had put in a lot of effort. What's more, from the beginning of these women's cultivation, they were hypnotized by Lady Fanghua with the mental cultivation method of the brilliant Thousand Red Spirit method. In this life, except for Yang Chun, there would be no other man's shadow in their hearts. Lady Fanghua, who came from the demon sect, was not afraid that these women and Yang Chun would take away Yang Chen's love for her. Speaking of it, she was still the master of these women. The master and apprentices served Yang Chen together, giving him whatever he wanted and submitting to adversity, which could make Yang Chun have a taboo stimulation, even more than when Yang Chen married his own master Gao Yu. For dedicating themselves to Yang Chun, the women almost used a sacrificial mentality, offering their virginity to Yang Chun like a pilgrimage. At the moment when they completed the transformation from a young girl to a young woman, every woman was satisfied like religious fanaticism. From the beginning, they were trained by Lady Fanghua to dedicate their lives to Yang Chun. How could they be like Lady Fanghua, who needed to kill Yang Chun 3 times before she would be dead set on him? After these women became Yang Chen's people, their first reaction was to casually attack Yang Chun 3 times. After completing the conditions of the brilliant Thousand Red Spirit method, they completely dedicated themselves and their hearts to Yang Chun. During this period of time, Yang Chun was simply living in the fragrant country. What dissolute King Zhou Yang Emperor, riding the fastest flying dragon, could not catch up with Yang Chen's clothes. Lady Fanghua took 30 maids with her, so that Yang Chun didn't even need to move his fingers, and he could enjoy the most erotic taste in the world. Yang Chun almost lived in the wine pool and meat forest. What his eyes saw and what his hands touched was a piece of pink curved snow. No matter what Yang Chun wanted to do, as long as he said it, there would be the most suitable woman to complete it for him. Fortunately, this was in the Dragon Palace, and it was impossible for others to come in at will, let alone see. If others saw Yang Chen's appearance at the moment, they would definitely suspect that Yang Chun had switched to the demon sect. Of course, Yang Chun did not forget the business. He accepted these 30 maids in order to quickly reduce his own cultivation, and at the same time condense his own spiritual power. The 30 maids were hit by a big pie falling from the sky. They never thought that their master would let them do such a thing. Every day, there was a maid who specially completed the process of absorbing Yang Chen's spiritual power. Yang Chen knew that their cultivation was low, so he just let them do their best. After several turns, the cultivation of all the maids had been raised to the peak Deshang stage. Of course, Lady Fanghua would not fall behind. With so many maids to share the pressure of her own, Lady Fanghua could finally rest assured and thoroughly enjoy the wonderful feeling of being nourished by her lover. While enjoying it, her cultivation was also skyrocketing. In just a few months, Lady Fanghua's cultivation had rushed to the 4th grade of human immortal. When she came, she was only in the late Deshang stage. In just a few months, Lady Fanghua had already become a 4th grade human immortal. The changes during this period were simply stunning. Lady Fanghua was originally from the demon sect. There had been several precedents of rapid improvement in her cultivation before, so no one would doubt anything. Even if someone questioned it, Lady Fanghua could say that she had comprehended the sect's glamorous spiritual method. With the support of Yin Yang Demon School, no one dared to grab a great superior Lady Fanghua. In this regard, Yin Yang Demon School was still many times stronger than Xunyang Palace. Yang Chen's own spiritual power cultivation finally fell to the peak Deshang stage after being squeezed by Lady Fanghua and the 30 maids. The fire attribute spiritual power was still outstanding, but it was only the 1st grade human immortal realm. Compared with the previous horror of the 5th grade human immortal, the change of cultivation in more than 100 years was not so outrageous. The 30 maids had completely integrated into their roles. As long as they were in the Dragon Palace, Yang Chun was destined to become a high and mighty master. The 30 beauties who were all focused on Yang Chun tried their best to serve Yang Chun perfectly, paying attention to any of Yang Chun's preferences and trying to let Yang Chun enjoy the most thoughtful service in the world. In less than a year, all the representatives of the major sect finally arrived at the Chunyang Palace. It was time for Yang Chun to talk to the representatives of the major sect about the longevity pill. Chapter 1496. The people who came here were far more than the top 10 sect of the Demon Continent. There were also rogue cultivators who had come to the Demon Continent over the years and discovered the situation of the Demon Continent and stayed to cultivate. In the current Demon Continent, except that the main sect had become the pure Yang Side Palace and the big sect, the others were no different from the former Dao sects or demon sects. No matter how strong the top 10 sect was, it was impossible to occupy all the territories. There would always be some small spiritual veins that would be shared by other sect people. As before, each sect opened a big market in its own territory and exchanged some things with the disciples of other sect or rogue cultivators. The closer to the core of the sect, the larger the scale of the market, and more cultivators gathered. There were a lot of rogue cultivators coming this time, and there were also a lot of masters from other sects who did not catch up with the big development. They heard that Yang Chun had a plan for a new medicinal pill, so they all gathered to see if there was a chance. The people on the Demon Continent, because the devil chi had been absorbed in recent years, many people had harvested some completely pure devilish beads. Although it was not as big as the one that Yang Chun gave to Mu Minyuan back then, it was not difficult to casually increase the cultivation of a cultivator by hundreds of years. The last chance, all the people who caught up would catch up, and those who couldn't catch up would never have a chance in the future. The sect that came to the Demon Continent with Yang Chun made a lot of money. Although there were enough devilish beads and the devil chi had been completely purified, people were like this. If they had a good thing, they would pursue another better thing. The devilish bead was a good thing that could increase the cultivation of a cultivator out of thin air, but the devilish bead had a fatal shortcoming. This kind of increase in cultivation could only increase the cultivation of spiritual power, and it had no effect on the improvement of the state of mind. The best and most natural method was to rely on oneself to slowly cultivate over the years. That was the most reliable method. Everyone understood the truth, so Yang Chen's prolonging life pill became the hot spot of everyone's pursuit. Being able to increase lifespan meant that they could not use those unorthodox methods to increase their cultivation and would not be affected by the side effects of the devilish bead. If such a good thing was not seized, people would definitely regret it for life. Of course, even if so many people gathered in the pure Yang Side Palace, it was impossible for Yang Chun to meet them one by one. What Yang Chun needed to see was just the representatives of the big sect, which naturally included Lady Fanghua of the Yin Yang Demon School. No one knew that Lady Fanghua had stayed with Yang Chun for a whole year. Everyone only knew that after the last separation, in just 100 years, Lady Fanghua had leaped from the middle Deshang stage to the sect. The cultivation of the demon sects was fast. Everyone was mentally prepared, but Madame Fanghua seemed to be a bit special. Last time, he suddenly jumped from a late Yuanying stage to the middle Deshang stage. This time, it was even more exaggerated. He directly jumped from the middle Deshang stage to the 3rd grade of human immortal. It seemed that the cultivation method that Madame Fanghua cultivated in the past was indeed unique. Even other people in Yin Yang Demon School did not have any doubts about the change of Lady Fanghua. In fact, Lady Fanghua was not the only one in Yin Yang Demon School who suddenly increased their cultivation base. Everyone was mixed Yin and Yang, so they naturally understood what the sudden improvement meant. It was nothing more than someone or a few poor guys being unlucky. They were sucked dry of their spiritual power by this snake and scorpion woman, and then kicked away. It was not a big deal. However, Yin Yang Demon School suddenly had a master of the sect, which was a big deal worth being happy, and paying attention to. This also meant that the strength of Yin-Yang Demon School had increased a little, and the safety of the disciples of the sect was a little more guaranteed. People in other sects congratulated him, but they were secretly worried in their hearts. Such a change in cultivation base of the great elder of Yin-Yang Demon School was still a little unsettling. Fortunately, for the time being, everyone was still an ally on the demon continent, so there was no need to worry too much for the time being. The appearance of Yang Chun quickly caused a burst of greetings from the crowd. The title of Master Yang was endless and rang nonstop. All the cultivators, familiar or unfamiliar, had the same title in their mouths. No one dared to disrespect Yang Chun in the pure Yang Side Palace. This Yang opened the furnace this time. I was just going to ask for some medicinal materials from the patients of this Yang to start alchemy. Everyone is so kind. This Yang is grateful. He was already a master of the Deshang stage. In the face of guests, Yang Chun rarely called himself this one, and used this Yang instead. Master Yang, can this medicinal pill really prolong life? Yang Chun was easygoing. Among the guests who came, someone boldly asked this question. There was no way around it. The medicinal pill to prolong life had always been a legend, and no one had ever heard of it. How many predecessors have not found a suitable way in their lifetime? But Yang Chun already has a clear pill recipe, which always gives people a feeling of unreality. This Yang does not dare to guarantee 100%. Yang Chun's answer was equally direct, but the answer was somewhat unsatisfactory. In people's expectations, they still wanted a positive answer. For this kind of thing, others did not believe that Yang Chun had this ability. Did Yang Chun still need to argue? In that case, how dare Master Yang talk nonsense and say that he wants to refine the longevity pill? The voice of the stranger in the crowd immediately questioned, and in the voice, it was full of anger, as if he had been deceived by Yang Chun. This Yang just said that he would try to refine a furnace, and this Yang never promised you anything. In the sight of Chunyang Palace, there was such a person, of course, Yang Chun would not have any good face. Not only Yang Chun, but even the other people in Chunyang Palace were also glaring. So, Master Yang was originally planning to deceive people. The stranger was a bit unforgiving, as if he had a deep hatred with Yang Chun, and immediately began to slander Yang Chun. This friend, if you have something to say, you don't have to hide your head and show your tail. Yang Chun said with a smile on his face. As soon as Yang Chun turned to this side, several people in front of that direction hurriedly dodged. What a joke. They came to ask for pills and opportunities, not to provoke Yang Chun. Everyone's movements were very fast, for fear that it would cause Yang Chun's dissatisfaction. There seemed to be only 3 people left, an old man with broken hands and feet, and the other 2 were 2 guys who looked very powerful at first glance. But the strange thing was that the other party only had the cultivation base of the late Deshang stage. How dare they be so presumptuous here? Yang Chun, this old man, is the master of the Hidden Dragon Cave. Seeing that there was no one else in front, one of the 2 powerful guys shouted at Yang Chun, "The hatred of killing my son. Today this old man will find you to settle it." Chapter 1497. With the loud shout of the Hidden Dragon Cave Master, the aura of the 2 men suddenly began to swell, as if they had been strongly suppressing it before, suppressing it in the middle Deshang stage. Now that it was completely released, they actually had the level of the 3rd grade human immortal. Everyone didn't seem to expect such a change. Even Yang Chun seemed to be stunned in place, stunned and motionless. Who could have thought that in the Chunyang Palace, in the face of so many masters of the Chunyang Palace, there were still people who dared to find Yang Chun to seek revenge? However, it seems that the opportunity this guy found was very good. All the masters of the Deshang stage in the Chunyang Palace, except for Yang Chun, were in the core demon seal formation to learn and observe. Only Yang Chun was in charge here. The representatives of the major sect who came to the Chunyang Palace, because it was not a formal event of the sect, they just contacted Yang Chun in advance and learned about Yang Chun's progress in alchemy, so they were not 2 senior masters. The most powerful one, except for Lady Fanghua, was just an elder in the middle Deshang stage. At this moment, Lady Fanghua of Yin Yang Demon School, in order to avoid suspicion, was sitting in the farthest place with a smile on her face to maintain her majesty as a master. For a while, it was still not urgent to save them. If they wanted to force it, they might have to sweep away all the people standing between the two. If they were not careful, they would accidentally hurt themselves. The Hidden Dragon Cave Master said that he and Yang Chun had a feud of killing his son, and Yang Chun had almost forgotten it. If it weren't for the reminder of the guy in front of him, Yang Chun would not remember the first time he went to the Demon Continent to gain experience. After just entering the continent, the arrogant guy wanted to hit the four women and was directly killed by Yang Chun. At that time, Yang Chun only thought that he killed a trivial little guy, but did not expect that the force behind the little guy was a bit tough. After so many years, they actually found out that Yang Chun killed his son at that time. The hatred of killing his son. After so many years, the cave master of the Hidden Dragon Cave finally found the right person. The opportunity in front of him was the best time for him to kill him and fulfill his long-cherished wish. This hateful brat, whether he was called Yang Chun or Master Yang, only death awaited him. Yang Chun's cultivation seemed pretty good. His fire attribute cultivation had actually reached the first stage of the human immortal stage. But so what? Under the pincer attack of 2 third-grade human immortals in the Hidden Dragon Cave, there was no other possibility than dying on the spot. Cave Master Hidden Dragon seemed to have seen Yang Chun's beheading, and the grin on his face was a little more satisfied. The two of them had already brought out their magic treasures and were about to fly towards Yang Chun. It seemed as though no one would be able to save Yang Chun at that very moment. Suddenly, something happened. Behind the two people in the Hidden Dragon Cave, the old man with a broken hand and a broken foot had been standing there very dispirited. At most, he was at the peak of the Yuanying stage, but at this moment he suddenly burst out with a trembling momentum, as if a sun had suddenly exploded and the heat was radiating. Behind the two sturdy figures, the old man's only hand had already grabbed the back of the Hidden Dragon Cave Master's neck from behind in a flash, while his body had already leaped into the air, kicking the other guys back heavily with one foot. Puff, a mouthful of blood spurted out directly, like a bullet directly sprayed on the wall in the distance. The thick stone wall was instantly pierced by the spurted blood. Immediately after the blood hit the wall, it was the body of the third-grade human immortal stage guy. With a bang, half of the wall was smashed out a huge hole, and the figure flew out. The power of that kick was so great that only half of the body of the master of the Hidden Dragon Cave flew out, and the remaining half was still in place. Because of inertia, the two legs still maintained a forward-rushing posture and stopped for a while before falling down. The cave master of the Hidden Dragon Cave was directly held by the back neck by the one-armed old man, and his whole body was hanging softly, as if he was dead. Even with the strength of the third-grade human immortal stage in the hands of the one-armed old man, it was vulnerable. Elder Zhou, how can I trouble you to do it in person? On Yang Chun's face, there was no panic at all, and even a kind smile, as if seeing a familiar friend. The dispirited old man with one hand and one foot was Elder Zhou of Yin Demon School, who was seriously injured last time. The first time Yang Chun talked about the longevity pill was when he treated Elder Zhou's injury. For so many years, Elder Zhou, who was injured, did nothing but take Yang Chun's 5th grade Lingji mushroom jade pill to heal his injuries. He has been waiting for the time when Yang Chun could refine the longevity pill. After waiting for more than 100 years, he finally waited for this moment. How could Elder Zhou sit still and immediately came with Lady Fanghua? The two little guys of the Hidden Dragon Cave, who had never been heard of, didn't know what secret method they had cultivated. They were able to skyrocket their cultivation base to the realm of the third-grade human immortal stage in a short period of time. They were delusional enough to act like a tyrant in the Pure Yang Palace, and they also wanted to kill Yang Chun for revenge. They really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If they really let them hurt Yang Chun, not to mention the injury, even if they were a little scared, it would be an unbearable thing for Elder Zhou. The two guys actually stood in front of Elder Zhou and dared to say that Yang Chun would be beheaded. It was estimated that they haven't learned how to write the word death. Master Yang, how do you think this guy should be dealt with? Holding the back neck of the hidden dragon cave master, Elder Zhou stood on one foot with an unusually majestic posture. However, the voice that came out of the majestic body was indeed so flattering. You can do as you see fit. Yang Chun casually waved, as if the hidden dragon cave master was a trivial fly. Bang! Yang Chen's voice just fell. The neck of the hidden dragon cave master was pinched into a mass of minced meat, and the lifeless body was thrown to the side very casually. With a disgusted expression on his face, Elder Zhou shook the blood drops on his hands, and then leaned over to wipe his hands on the clothes of the hidden dragon cave master, and then kicked the body of the hidden dragon cave master away. The people around him seemed to have seen some terrifying demons, and they all dodged, and no one dared to look at Elder Zhou again. Only the representatives of the major sects were still able to maintain their composure and remain seated. As for the rogue cultivators, they were already petrified. Master Yang, what kind of devilish bead do you need for alchemy? As long as you say it, my sect will immediately offer it with both hands. Elder Zhou's tone was sincere, and there was no trace of questioning Yang Chun. He stood in the same place with one hand and one foot, with a flattering smile on his face. No matter how one looked at it, it was not harmonious. If it weren't for the fact that everyone had just seen him kill the two masters of the hidden dragon cave with lightning speed, no matter what, they couldn't associate him with a master. Devilish bead of human immortal grade 5 or above. Yang Chun replied with a smile, and then gave Elder Zhou a huge surprise. If there's a ready-made one, how about you and I do alchemy together?